And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, getting you nice and set for one of our first games, of course, in the South American bracket here for the run-up to qualify for the main event at Gamers 8 2023. Focusing on Rainbow Six, of course. I know we've had some of our other game tournaments going on over the past few weeks as well, but the focus for these last few days, and at least for today and tomorrow, is all about that Rainbow Six action. So welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just joining us, we've got NIP getting ready to go up against LOS+one, and we have our other side of the bracket also being played currently on our Bravo channel. If you're watching us on Twitch, it's an easy adjustment. Just go ahead and add, I believe, B or Bravo to the link below, and you can go ahead and be directed over to that channel and go ahead and hop into that game if that's the one you are wanting to check things out. Once more, it's the question of whether the addition of Cameraman here is going to make that significant difference and allow for LOS+one to come out on top of this series where they faltered just a few months prior in trying to qualify for the Copenhagen Major during those last chance qualifiers. With Cameraman stepping in, there's a lot more experience being added to the roster. Kind of obviously with Cameraman's addition there, it speaks very much for itself, as this player has been along oftentimes as much as the Latin American region has been around in T1 Siege. So with that said, hopefully he's going to be boosting the capability of this team. Has only been on the squad for a bit of a limited amount of time and has been officially announced for even less than that. So we're going to have to see if it's been quick enough of a change-up. I think they've had enough time, as you heard the analysis talking about it. They've worked with them for maybe around like a month or so now, but we're really just going to have to wait and see, as this is the team's first official in quite a few weeks.
Yeah, it could be pretty back and forth here. You know, we kind of touched base on that initially, and I kind of think that still rings true here, especially with how Ninjas and Pyjamas has been playing. At the major, they were a little streaky, but one thing was definitely relevant, and it was Psycho. You know, one of the best players at the entire major, had a 1.23, just looking so very strong the entire time. So, you know, I'm really hoping that Ninjas and Pyjamas can show some improvement from what we saw in Denmark.
That is, of course, the other side of the coin here when compared to LOS+one, if that consistency is going to ring through here today, if obviously the longer standing core that NIP brings to the table, and obviously the very fresh experience they have just playing at the major, is going to outshine the kind of new honeymoon effect we may be getting from LOS+one with their pickup of Cameraman. Alternatively, though, those recent games they played, specifically the ones at the major, could have a bit of a double-edged sword effect when you consider that obviously they would have played their hand to an extent at the major itself and kind of exhausted any new plays. Well, not really to expect that teams would have been preparing any super special strategies for this specific event or anything like that, but if they had any more core strategies that have already really been played out during the case of the major, then LOS+one is certainly going to be latching on to those. Safe assumption to say, though, that LOS+one is maybe not all the time, but sometimes at least scrimming against NIP, so considering that this is an inter-regional matchup anyway, there should already be a good amount of kind of gelling going on between the two teams. Not to mention, of course, Cameraman just being in the scene for as long as he has been probably has a little bit of insider info into how NIP generally works some of these things. But we'll have to, once again, like I said before, just really wait and see. Let's get, like I said before, I think we were just having some small server problems getting things rolling, but hopefully once we resolve those, the game itself will be getting started. It's an interesting map pick too, a very LATAM-centric map veto that we had go on here. So a lot of those very open laid out maps, a lot of room for roamers to have their mark. Expect that very chaotic play style that you oftentimes get out of Latin American teams to really shine out here over the course of this series. I know we're going to be playing, at least on the Chalet, I believe, to start things off. And then if we get to that third and final map, Villa, those are the two maps I'm talking about where we're really going to see that play style have its day in the limelight here.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially you mentioned it there, Villa, the big map that you're looking for a lot of that aggressive play off-site. And I think that's something that LOS+one has always offered up. And Cameraman might be able to, you know, be that spider that kind of strings the web together between them. And that's what we're really looking for here, is for him to fill in that, big pant role and try and be that IGL that everybody's looking for here for LOS+one. He's got plenty of history with that as well, especially with the FaZe. I mean, a historic history in Brazil, so hopefully he's here to do it again, but I think today will definitely put a stamp of approval on this team if they're able to get the dub.
And just so you guys have the full info spread, Bank is the second map, but the third one we actually haven't mentioned yet. So once again, that map as well is really going to outshine that playstyle quite a bit. A little bit more depending on the site, I think, for that map specifically, but we should still, once again, see those extended players really have their day in the limelight and plenty of opportunities to shine things out all throughout the course of this series. So should just be a few more moments away. Like I was just saying, we just got the information from Productions. We were just waiting on one more player to jump into the server. We are going to be good to start things off. It's not going to be our only matchup today as well, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have one matchup going on later as we're showcasing one South American match, one North American match here on the main stream. And the same thing is being done over on our Bravo stream as well. So for instance, over on that Bravo stream currently, we're going to be having Team Liquid go up against Chaos. That's our other semifinal from the other side of the bracket. If you guys are wanting to check that out, that one should be live already, if not in the next few moments, over on the Bravo stream. While we've got NIP versus LOS+one here. And then once both of those games have finished, of course, we've got the NA side of things later on in the day for our second best of three, as it'll be Beast Coast going up against Dark Zero here on this stream. And then over on the Bravo stream, once again, M80 will be taking on West Garfield Park. And we'll see the clash of the winners from all of those matchups going on tomorrow. Is just like we had yesterday, 2 best-of-5 finals on the stream tomorrow to get us a true winner and, of course, a qualified team going to Gamers 8 out of both South America and North America to wrap things up for this weekend of festivities here in Gamers Without Borders 2023. You can see us flying into the digital arena now, ladies and gentlemen, so I do believe it is time to get things started. Once more, huge apologies for the delays. I know we're a couple minutes late getting things rolling here, but we are live now, so let's get ourselves into it as it's Chalet for our first map of the day between NIP and LOS+one.
Great intro there, John. Love that, man. LOS+one, Ninjas in Pyjamas. Exciting stuff here in the best of 3. And that's the beauty of this tournament so far, isn't it? We got a long, more strenuous format, so these teams can't just pull one over on the other. They actually have that time to adjust. And, well, we'll see if we're singing someone's song by the end of this. And it could be pretty quick, like the desk was predicting. LOS+one looking pretty favored with the map bans. But we'll have to see. As we get through these bans, it's going to be Flores and Ying, some hallmark bans when it comes to the offense, especially Ying in recent history. Zombie also going to be banned out, and you could definitely say the same about her. Let's wrap this up here. So LOS+one will take out our last, and it's going to be Castle, a pretty unique one, but one that definitely, I would say, stands pretty tall when it comes to strategies across the board, especially on a map like Chalet, John. You know, this is used for a lot of windows, a lot of doors. It forces a lot of soft destruction to be brought on the offense, so could just be loosening things up for themselves later on, or maybe they just don't like something about Ninjas in Pyjamas strategy when Castle is in the lineup.
Yeah, I would personally believe it's a bit more of a targeted ban over towards NIP, but we'll have to dig a little bit deeper, more so after the game, or allow our analysis team, to take a deeper look at that one. But either way, we get ourselves into the first round, where los+one, of course, have the defensive-sided start to this one. Fans, of course, also removing a Zombie from play. We had our APAC finals going on yesterday, and a Zombie was left in play for pretty much every single matchup, and we saw what problems that could potentially really create for both of our teams, and just the kind of individualistic nature that she's able to play things out when she is left in play because of those barricades and the general amount of power they carry forward. It does not seem like our teams want to mess around with that, or at least NIP does not want to mess around with that here today, especially since they start on the attacking side, so that will be banned out directly, hopefully allowing for the attacking team to bypass that phase of the round where they have to eat up 30 seconds, maybe even a minute or longer, dealing with that solo Zombie player.
Yeah, clearing appropriately is already difficult enough, so you don't want to add that more random element when you can just apply barricades and really sit wherever you want, right? So a strong ban, and one that we'll more than likely see throughout the day here. Ninjas in Pyjamas, though, out the gates blue, and we're going to jump into it immediately. los+one, they're feeling themselves already early on here. They've extended a couple of panels down low to make sure this rotation can at least be covered for a moment, or they'll at least have to dedicate some hard breach to want to hold it, and that's exactly what's going to happen. You can see Ninjas in Pyjamas already aware that there is a roam game here from LOS+one. These early drones really going to assist with this, and speaking of drones, the info game super strong here, but you can see LOS seriously wanting some smoke. Still have some crosses to try and deal with, but Ninjas in Pyjamas, they're going to try and take the high road here, John. They're going to reinsert themselves on the mid floor.
Threat of Cameraman jumping out there, obviously dead now with him being spotted out by the drone, but still plenty of presence from los+one down in the bottom floor, as well as, of course, on the second floors. That's limiting NIP's opening strike options. Seems like they may be bypassing both the second and basement holds and potentially be trying to go directly for the site. A little bit of side pressure is going to be contributed, though, over towards libraries. That'll more likely be the main focus here. We are only a minute deep, after all, so NIP has plenty of time to figure out how to deal with this. Would have been very bold if we saw them go directly for the site play, but it's going to be Khans catching Loban as he tries to get aggressive or by the library window to score the first kill, and Psycho follows it up with an entry into the site itself. He'll also maintain connector control, which will be a big theft. Thankfully, Cameraman reattains that control and prevents disaster from striking his squad because of his trade. los+one might still be in this, however, Muzi quickly restores the advantage for our attackers with a strike against Maya to bring it down to a 4v2. Dash looking to get some more revenge from the top of blue stairs here, but he has been scoped out, or at the very least, NIP have an expectation of a play to be made from this top extended shield position. We'll be back, trying to creep back downstairs in a moment here, making himself run out towards it, hopefully putting himself in a better position to support Cameraman as well, but Cameraman will just strike on his lonesome from that bottom to top angle, finds the strikeout against Muzi to eliminate him, brings us down to a bit more of a palatable 2v3, but he's under pressure now too, as Dash still looks for the right opportunity to strike from the depths of those blue stairs positions.
Nice angle adopted here from Cameraman. The patience, play coming in from Nip. Rotation in. Dash has one though, and he's gonna have to find two more, but what a play here from Wizard. You can see the matrix that Ninjas and Pyjamas had set up around the site. Every facet, this entire area shut down, and someone able to respond in kind. If anything did end up going down, just as it has. So now Ninjas and Pyjamas are going to be able to take the lead here from LOS, but I mean, hard fought from LOS at the end of the day, especially from Cameraman, getting a lot done from the site, and just across the board, both of these teams having a very, very strong awareness of where the important portions of the map are and trying to maintain control of those. You know, LOS trying to battle back up on that top floor, Ninjas and Pyjamas immediately, responding with Muzi hopping in for library control. It was just very well done any way you cut it.
NIP, like you mentioned, they were just far too much control over the situation, especially from the library POV for los+one to be able to do much about that, especially as they were reduced to a 2v4 before the fight for the site really truly began there. NIP just exercising some amazing control. And once again, that's the benefit of this long-standing roster they're going to bring to the table over the course of the series, well, where los+one is obviously still trying to piece things together with new leadership having joined up. That leadership, by the way, immediately striking here with a double kill on the outset. Well, I believe at least is his first official game on the roster. And aside from that as well, nearly able to do even more than that if he did not get spotted out by that drone in the basement when he was able to push forward from his initial wide room hold at the beginning of that round. Loban, let's see if he can get cheeky with this drone hold positioning. There might be a chance for him to sneak off a few bullets, but doubtful now, especially as we see the clearance being made. Good attempt at a pre-fire into the big window as it breaks, but once more the timing is just a few milliseconds off for him to actually strike with it.
Well, phone call out, but not really much off the back of it here from Nip, minus some map control. Little nods of the locations of LOS. Speaking of, Loban will be downstairs. This deep rotation here. I'd potentially be looking for Psycho, and Psycho with a nice find here as well, so be able to break up one of the side panels that isn't electrified. So when there's a will, there's a way, and he'll be able to at least make an angle for his team to hold things on dining. The rest of his set, well, they're going to go upstairs. The Electro Claw not quick enough, so we'll at least have those lines of sight. And in fact, I do believe one of the Selmas ended up breaking up that piece there, so we'll actually make both of those hoppable. Don't have to worry about that rotation here, and Dash will make one for himself just to try and safely rotate back towards Master.
Dash quickly realizing he's been forced into the hot seat here, so opens up that rotation to at least have a possible path of escape when NIP try to clamp those jaws shut. We're still waiting for them to make that ultimate move, though, and los+one's extended position for Dash is getting a little bit more support, as you can see. We have Maya having rotated into the area as well, so it's no longer just a solo hold, even though this is, once again, just the extension that NIP are working on clearing out for themselves here and now. Still have to make the full transition down to the first floor and be able to knock that up, but thankfully, they're able to pull the trigger here. Just takes a little bit of time to synchronize those angles, and when they are ready to strike, there is no fire back from los+one at all. Dotzera hoping for a chance of revenge from the bottom of the top angle on the inside of kitchen, going to the master bedroom window, but not going to be able to find that. Cameraman instead will capitalize on Wizard advancement going into bar as well as billiards. Now it's going to be Loban making the moves up top here as he dashes back in on a flank maneuver from the top of blue, taking down two of the attackers, now three, as he gets a beautiful pre-fire on the peak from Pino to knock him down. NIP once again was looking to line themselves up for a pretty clean take, but los+one's flank maneuvering has completely killed that potentiality, leaving it all on Psycho in a 1v3 clutch with only 30 seconds to get the case down now.
It's a fantastic bait and switch. I don't think it was exactly supposed to go this way where LOS ends up losing to, especially from that crossfire that Nip got outside, but LOS was definitely considering the flank underneath. We had the Wamai as well as the Solus that were just waiting there for the opportunity to spring and strike, and that's exactly what they did. A huge triple kill coming out of Solus, another kill coming out of the Wamai, and leaving the remaining player in a 1 versus 3, a practically impossible situation given the circumstances. So fantastic strategy here from LOS, distracting Ninjas and Pyjamas on the top floors. They really want to try and, you know, gather master and break up that floorboard, try and get that plant down over inside of kitchen slash, you know, dining, but they can't, all because of the pressure that was reapplied from behind by LOS.
Another great example of the power of Solus right there too, just having the full confidence to make a roam play like that. Obviously on the approach to those players, more than likely with the scanner being enabled and knowing full well that he did not accidentally walk past any drones or anything like that. So knew is going to be able to waltz up on those players, not really have to second guess or kind of fudge out his potential peak timing at all, because he knew he had not been detected at that point. So beautiful play, and once again showcases the power that Solus can have. She is left unbanned, as we have, of course, inside of this game. More likely going to be seeing a little bit more from that on a few additional sites here for losone, but they have swapped it out of the lineup for now to focus a bit more on their actual site presence now that they make the return where they initially lost at the beginning of this game over here inside of Bar.
A few adjustments here for Ninjas and Pyjamas, and I mean, why wouldn't you? You're more or less attacking a completely different site when it comes to the breakdown of this. Really like that they still have the sledge in here, though. They're going to want that for library and trying to break up some of this flooring, but they do have to dislodge Lobbin in here, though. Did see some dock play in this position yesterday, John, with some of the matchups that we got to end up casting. Lobbin going to have the same ordeal going on for him, all the discs instead, and that does provide the opportunity for Ninjas and Pyjamas to overwhelm his position.
Pino strikes true with the nade, goes in right on top of Lobbin as well, but is able to knock him out. He doesn't even see the nade indicator, I'm pretty sure, so just perfectly timed, and that one may have well been perfectly timed as well from the defense, more perfectly thrown from los+one. Unfortunately, the timing itself was a little bit off, so no real damage done in response to that excellent nade opener against Lobbin. That is going to leave NIP with an assured advantage for the time being at 5v4. NIP being as careful as they are as well, more than likely not going to be tripping up upon that, so expect their focus to shift on dealing with this Warden or another extended player so that they can focus entirely, of course, on the site take. Step 1 is done. Steps 2 and 3 really are all that stand between NIP and another very quick execute onto Bar.
We'll have a little phone party here. These kids and these phones these days, I swear. All the drones ready for Ninjas and Pyjamas, trying to suss out the last locations of LOS. Not too much going on the top floor. Just trying to hold on to library so they're free to enter on the master side. Just really have to make sure that once they get close to home that things are coordinated before it gets too dangerous. Dash, speaking of which, getting caught up on a crossfire as he goes fishing. Should worry about the big window as well, I do believe. It's going to be Muzi here on the double here for the balcony. LOS trying to hold on to this top floor. You can see the defensive matrix that they've built up around here. A lot of crossfires over towards the library hall, as well as those two in there with the mirror, just trying to hold things down on site, just so Nip can't just backdoor them. As he's going to try and move in now. Not very much time here, and Nip really needs to try and get on the gas pedal. Looking to see if LOS will overplay their hand here. And just remember, that case can go down at that 0 timer, so it's a very important note. His cameraman will head us off, and that's going to be the lighter to the fuse. Well, this thing seems to be a pretty quick burn as we're already down to a 2 versus 2. Muzi with some nice shots. Muzi won't be able to track the Jaeger, though, with Dash, and it'll be a nice kill, though, with the transfer. Only 8 seconds remaining. He's got a dot on him. He knows he's in the back window. A pre-fire has to try and run up. He knows that he's pushing. Plays around the shield. Can he get it? The timer? No! Oh. Dots gets it done instead with the shotgun. A seldom kill, but one that they're definitely going to be happy about.
Dot's obviously abusing the defensive advantage he has there, just ducking, dodging his way out of trouble until he could close the line and bring out the shotty for a more assured shutdown of things inside of the 1v1. Great mid-round adjustment from los+one as well. They realized that this kind of hyper-aggressive stance they were looking to put out, especially for losone at the beginning of the round, was not really working, so they doubled down on those defensive positions, even the extended ones up into library, but don't move an inch from the defensive setup. They realized that Nip's hand with those nades had already been played. They didn't really have a backup set to knock a second, let alone a third player out of that same position. So they forced Nip's hand, made them go for that 30-second or less execute, just forcing themselves into 1v1s for those hard points where los+one was able to come out as the victor in a large majority of them, especially for Dash. I think he picked up 2, if not 3 of those over the course of the round before eventually getting caught in the rotation back downstairs. That gamble on holding back and just, once again, putting the faith in their gunners to win out their duels inside of the actual site fight pays off for los+one, and now they take the lead just by 1 round for now, but they do take the lead over NIP because of that.
Now, seemingly going to be pretty tight-knit here in between these two. At least if los+one has anything to say about it, Ninjas in Pyjamas has at least been able to keep it close, and that's what we expected here out of these two squads. And I can definitely say I'm happy with the way that Nip is playing so far, especially for Wizards' sake. Didn't exactly have the greatest, major, but looking pretty strong here today, at least looking competitive, and that's what you want for the team across the board. You don't want, a heavyweight right at the top and everybody else lacking behind at the bottom. You want that full scoreboard activity. Say the same for los+one, as they have definitely been light at the scoreboard, all except for Maya, which doesn't really happen all that often when you see the big old goose egg there, so expect them to be popping off quite soon.
Bobbin waiting for his chance to potentially strike on what is now a little bit more of an extension onto the inside of Bar. Of course, he's free to rotate between these a bit more liberally. Of course, he's just looking to delay for time, preventing NIP from going for an outright clear of things upstairs. losone will get some of the pressure against him, though, just directly through the big window here. That'll come from Wizard, obviously, so the pressure will force him back down through the rotate onto the main basement stairs, where he's now been gobbled up a little bit here with one of his teammates. They're going to have to potentially figure that one out. Not necessarily going to be a great idea, in my opinion, to play together here on these basement positions. We'll have to wait and see, because NIP do have to respect that to an extent and worry about another potential kind of ascent flank later on in the round if they try to go directly for the site. We already saw that once, specifically for Dash, if my memory serves me correctly. No, it was losone that was able to do that and flank his way up through the metal stairs and ultimately cut back against the upstairs clear that NIP were going for back on round 2. They do not want to fall victim to the same moves here for a second time. Going to be Pino to strike first, though. So it's a moment of opportunity duel up against Dash, and is going to be able to win. That a few shots returning against him, but nothing he can't continue on the fight for. Pretty dangerous amount of upstairs control. Actually goes over to NIP because of that one. So it's not going to be surprising, at all if we see both losone as well as that Oryx being played by Cameraman start to work their way back over towards Solarium Stairs and get into a position to just support the main site fight itself, which is really not that far away. If NIP want to force the issue here, timing is going to force it on them soon anyway, as they've really only got about 20 seconds left before they got to throw themselves at the site now.
And they might have a serious problem. I mean, they at least got the bare minimum, right? First minute, or rather last minute here, able to get a big pick, and 30 seconds remaining, get another one. But now LOS, due to the, map control that Ninjas in Pyjamas have, they're kind of boxed off and, pretty easy to predict where they're coming from at the moment. So it's going to be some trades once again in between these two, and LOS still able to stand pretty tall on site, although Dot, as well as Cameraman, lit up pretty heavily. Both these weapons could be quite hot up against them, and they will be. Muzi looking for the last kill. The plant going down from Wizard. Cameraman going to go for the rotation, but he heard it. Muzi will shut him down, and that's going to be a round to tie things up for Nip.
A little too bold from Cameraman as he tries to move out to stop the plant attempt, ultimately walking right into the setup of one of the 2 remaining players from NIP, though. NIP, very, very lucky, in my opinion, they get away with that one, as once more, just like a few previous rounds, to be fair, it's kind of part of their play style, so it's just going to look like this on a few more of these attacking rounds that they have left, but it very much looked like, anyway, they were somewhat out of position to make an attack like that work. Now they turn the tables on los+one, as once more, los+one tries to play into the strengths of their inside setup, but is not able to win as many duels as necessary this time to sort of make the execute a not workable situation for NIP, so NIP is able to brute force their way past that setup from los+one, and obviously leave themselves still with a pretty tense 2v1, but one that it looked like they had good control over at the end of the day to tie us up again at that 2-2 scoreline.
Yeah. And the key thing there was just the big weapon difference for Ninjas in Pyjamas, right? As you said, there really wasn't any business for them to have the ability to just run over los+one there. But the key factor was that they were able to just simply push more damage, and los+one didn't really have the ability to trade things out, especially when it came to the tail end. Because if they did go for the trade, they're both one shot, you know. So it just ends up being a really big issue for them, and something that Ninjas in Pyjamas were able to exploit. The entire team was ready to swing onto that site, and that's why it worked for them. They were ready for war, and Los was just ready for the battle.
It's kind of surprising it worked out that way too, because we saw it at one point there, the crosses that los+one had established for themselves against that 90 wrap going towards Piano looked like it was going to be plenty strong enough to cut off any direct take attempts from NIP. And I don't believe NIP had like a secondary breach into office or any angles to work for the back.
He just swung him. He straight up just swung him. He cleared his angle there.
That's again, that goes further into my point of like, I'm very surprised that worked for NIP at the end of the day. But that's been 2 rounds in a row now.
If it's working for them, it's working for us, John, okay?
Yeah, that's been 2 rounds in a row now. I've been kind of like, okay, I guess that worked, because I kind of had similar thoughts to los+one. Playing it back as passively as they did inside of their bar setup, but that also worked into their favor. So just a turn of the tape for both teams here over the past 2 rounds. Now still though, leads us into what could be a very close series because of that, as once more NIP just having that slight inkling of additional gun skill that was necessary to win that round, really.
They're playing strong crossfires. What do we do? Well, did you try shooting them?
Did you try just winning your fights?
Yeah.
That's why I just didn't at one of the rounds.
You know, Rainbow Six Siege is either really complicated or really easy. It's just the way that you look at the game. Either you use all the utility or you just shoot your opponent.
It either takes a 2-minute explanation to figure out how someone won a round, or it's a, no, he just won his fights.
Exactly. I know how to gunfight, and this person lost, and that's exactly how it goes. At least when you're lobbing, you know. Nice little hold here from Psycho. Love that rotation that they made in that panel. The play around stock has always been a very curious position for me. I've always really found it interesting for this map. Just a bunch of ways you can get away with things, even when you're not playing on that side. So very well done for them.
He's able to prevent an outright breach into Garage 2. Dash tries to take his own opening duel, but is not going to have as decent amount of luck. Oh, however, yeah, the pressure comes in, and Dash is ready for it. Sees the side play entering the room from Wizard, and is able to counter him out despite the HP disadvantage. Good recovery from Dash after trying to get aggressive earlier on. Muzi has hopped forward and taken Blue Steps control, trying to put pressure on the rotates going over to Snowmobile from Wine. But once again, it looks like los+one are aware of this, have somewhat read into it. Pino's still trying to clear out Trophy in the meanwhile. And we've got the soulless shotgun play from Dash to hold the line here. Loban downstairs finally has met his match though, or at least has been downed by another matchup. More than likely that's going to be Muzi putting the pressure on him, and indeed it does appear to be the case. So finish him off with a nade. It's a big piece of utility gone, and no more in the pocket. Cameraman as well, still waiting down the hall in Laundry, is more than ready for the fight from Cons and Muzi. His rampage will finally end in a direct duel, of course, against the Mirror there that goes the way of los+one as they maintain control by 1 round again, heading into the final round of the half.
Well, a scatterbrain infects us all, and it seems that it's gotten Ninjas in Pyjamas this time around. Especially with Muzi kind of lurking over towards blue. Fantastic position. That's really not the problem. The key thing is that Nip seriously needed some help over on the Trophy side. They could not deal with that roaming position there, and they tried to just single file their way into that room, and obviously it was right into the mulcher as los+one able to once again get around over on Ninjas in Pyjamas. And it has to be said, Cameraman, he is really putting up some numbers right now. 6, 3, and 4. It's not just the kills, it's also the assists coming through.
Cameraman obviously putting himself right into the heat of the action as a critical pickup for this team, not just with regards to the experience he can bring as a potential IGL, or at least supporting IGL, but also just with regards to his individual skill as a player too, as Stokes was just mentioning here. Top fragging currently for the team, not by a huge margin to be fair. Dash is pretty competitive with him, but also contributing with regards to wasting out amounts of time as he's playing that very front and forward roaming role. I mean, kind of obvious on the Oryx here, but for those who aren't able to latch onto that one. And then Dash coming in to assist when things get a little bit rough as well. And even if he isn't picking up the kills himself, he's still contributing quite nicely to them, as Stokes was mentioning. Quite a few assists that have been picked up over these 6 or 5 rounds so far as well.
Yeah, I love the lethality in his play so far, but I think the key thing is that los+one look a lot more tight-knit in their play. The strategy looking a bit better, you know, with him at the helm already. So excited to see what this team can do down the line. You know, if they're already at least somewhat competitive with Ninjas in the Pyjamas to the point where they're ahead in round count as of now, you know, that could bode well for their future. So we'll see how this map ends up as of now. But, I mean, you can color me impressed for the most part.
Things continuing to look promising for the new los+one roster, even with just one player swap. A big one at that, to be fair, but indeed, Chose to one has certainly given new life to this squad, and we'll have to see here today if they can continue to push that potentiality further and further, potentially into a major event as well. Pino strikes first here with the opening kill, but does not respect what has usually been a second player roaming nearby or outright in the basement area itself. Quick push from Dash. He immediately trades out that opener against Pino and takes away all the basement control he had just taken for himself. Cameraman obviously a little upset that he's not able to make impact on this round, but it's all right as his teammate thankfully has his back in this situation.
Well, it's a 4 versus 4 now. Ninjas and Pyjamas with some options, but they will be lacking the logic bumps going into the later portion of round 6. Wizard has worked his way into Mudroom, has a few players around him in kind. Psycho is the only one actively with the drone right now as well. There's one more active drone out. It's more than likely holding a cross or something, but that's going to be all she wrote for the drone game of the entirety of Ninjas in Pyjamas. They have some crosses, but they're not able to get a kill on it. They're going to be flying blind here. It's down to the face checks and the gunfights for Nip.
That is how Nip has been able to negotiate at least one of these 2 round wins they have, so not the worst strategy in the world, especially if they're feeling the player to player. They can win a better, or they have a better chance to win gunfights against the overall chances that los+one have to do the same exact thing. Muzi grouping up with at least one more of his teammates to move quickly up through blue stairs. Quite a few obstacles still here for the defense, so it is going to be a risky push at that. los+one could easily go aggro here, potentially get in the faces of NIP and probably be pretty successful with it, but thankfully, NIP did do a decent amount of damage to at least half of this remaining roster for the defense, so it looks like that's holding them back a little bit more, causing them to give a normal amount of respect over to NIP's clear presence here, especially now that we are coming down to the final 20 seconds. It's wise to expect immediate pressure to come into the site, and right as we hit that 20-second marker, perfectly timed from los+one, they swing out to try and counter out some of this very same pressure, and it works perfectly. 2 kills, none have been traded. Wizards gonna, that second snap was insane, but he's got a bit more work to do, and only 5 seconds to get it done. One more pickup here to potentially be seen for our defense, and they're gonna get it instead, as Loban stops the rampage there from a member of NIP that's nearly able to get away with it all. Unfortunately stuck outside of the building. It's just not really a workable position for that clutch.
The cold ones always have to be futile, I swear. Come on, that was something else, but still had 2 other targets to try and take down. los+one up 4-2 now. Ninjas in Pyjamas will be switching gears on over to defense to see if they can try and shore up this score line. Let's get this clip one more time. Nice adjustment. Just heard the hop on the left-hand side, knew
Wizard
the influence was going to be coming. I mean, just very well checked from him. It was just well struck at the end of the day. But besides that, though, los+one now switching on to offense, and this is really where the rubber hits the road. And you can see them already kind of getting in their bag on this offense as well. They're changing it up, John. Immediately when I said that, I was already excited about the lineup that we had. And now they're throwing us for a loop again. We're going to have the Monty in play.
We'll see if the Monty, of course, changes up the overall play style for the attack. los+one will have a bit better of a capability to force the issue forward now as they get themselves into this next round, but we'll see how exactly it all comes together once they work themselves into the building itself, as it is going to be that same bar hold that we had los+one themselves starting off with during the first half. Away from that, though, taking a look at the operator lineup and the fact that we do have the Monty, nothing too crazy aside from, of course, that shield operator selection itself is going to be still a very traditional attacking lineup to work your way through Chalet.
Not exactly a position you usually see a Monty in, but not really going to affect Dot. There's nobody really around. Muzi's all the way over in office. He's got the panel slapped up for Master, so I'm going to have to worry about any influence from that position, at least. Loban will be entering over on the Ego balcony side. So drop back down the stairwell. Muzi's going to continue to hold on to this. This looks like a death position to me. Just play your life, try and get something going here, force them to clear you, get some gunfights going. This is going to force some strategy out of los+one. Going to want to coordinate this and make sure that nobody just gets caught off guard for free. That's when Ninjas in Pyjamas starts getting too much value out of a position like this. But nothing really else there for Nip to really try and assist with when it comes to that area. I mean, he can obviously try and escape currently, but As soon as that route starts to come from LOS and they get the door, then you really do have an issue. So LOS, though, not being too quick about their initial strike, mostly still stuck in their O phase and seeing what they can get done with this. And this has actually allowed the rotation of the Ninjas in Pyjamas player. Our Jaeger that was previously in office, no longer there. Over on blue stairs instead.
Dot's working himself forward here, continuing to harass out any would-be upstairs presence from NIP inside of office. Obviously, that has been killed quite quickly, but trying to move the Monty forward, and more importantly, trying to make the supporting player behind the Monty have any chance to win on a gunfight is going to prove a bit difficult with that bulletproof. Thankfully, it'll be dealt with relative ease. There's the well-placed nade, and it is now gone. Dots is free to move himself forward. However, lurking right around the corner here is Psycho with the tape already ripped on his Nitro cell, and Toxic Babes looking to hold him back. NIP certainly have brought the right strategy to the table here to counter out this Monty play. It's now the question of what do los+one have in the pocket to potentially counter that very same counterplay itself. And unfortunately, they don't seem to have a straightforward answer to that one. Psycho indeed takes out the Monty just as we expected him to with that, and immediately we're going to see, of course, the attack begin to fall to pieces, and once more NIP hold the line. The attackers never even making the descent down onto the play floor itself. They get shut down by the library hold here.
Well, it's a nice attempt there from LOS, but as you said, futile at the end of the day. Ninjas in Pyjamas able to at least get the library hold for now. LOS able to get the initial clear, but ends up hitting a few roadblocks, and we'll see if they can try and make some adjustments in this lineup to assist themselves, especially up against this kitchen defense. Got a lot more drone manipulation coming out from Ninjas in Pyjamas. Conth and Psycho both gonna be blocking some of that. Some trap game here from Muzi as well. Past that, just filling in the gaps with Pino and Wizard. It's just more of a why wouldn't you situation here with the laser gates, as well as the Wamai discs coming in, especially with Wamai's recent change as he got the 1.5 back. Hooray for all of our MP5 gamers out there. Definitely one of my favorite guns throughout the time and history of Siege. So enjoy it while it lasts, just in case it does go away. But we'll have to see what they can potentially get done with that 1.5 for Wizard's sake inside of round 8.
In other news for the attack, we've got the rare sense pick coming out from Dash.
Oh no! Is this what I think it is? We might have the crazy kitchen offense with the drone hole, because you can roll the little sense light wall through there. So
not only that, but they have Glaz built up with this one too, and Glaz is currently not carrying his usual set of smokes. I've actually not seen the interaction between Glaz's smokes, or rather Glaz's scope and Sense's line, but I'm going to assume it works, meaning that
yes, it does.
Glaz should be able to see directly through them and pop off anyone that tries to maneuver behind what is going to be assumed to be a safe rotate for NIP, but very much could be a mistake if Maya is looking down his sights when that happens.
I mean, to be fair, it may or may not have been in the release video for Sense, so I am gonna fry you about that just a little bit, but that's okay. It's all right. They totally didn't show Glaz looking directly through the light wall or anything. That totally didn't happen. Anyways,
I'm not with the marketing department.
To be fair,
I am. Not
this to be fair, this never happens.
like I said, I haven't seen anyone attempt this yet, so, or at least it hasn't been very noticeable when they have tried it. So it's just the first time.
Now here's the follow up. You actually have, because we casted it together. It happened one time and it failed terribly. So
I guess exactly what I said originally. Then it just wasn't that remarkable when it did happen. So.
Your brain just took white out and was like, I don't need this anymore.
I was like, not important, not remembering that. We'll bring it up again when we see it again. So that's exactly what we have here.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, we really hope that Dash can figure this situation out. They're going to pop the top end and apply some pressure that'll hold back Nip on that top floor. But, I mean, the main stage is actually what's going to be going on inside of Dining. That's what we're really looking at here.
Breach going to be moving itself towards Dining quite quickly, and Loven as well just scouts out a kill from down below, conquesting forward on a solo journey through the basement and succeeding the entire time. And you're exactly correct, Stokes. You can see that sense lineup being made now through the drone hole. In comes the line. NIP will not be able to spot through it. There'll be a slight gap they can try to maneuver through, as you guys can spot out now, but unsure if that's actually going to be utilized. There's a little bit of hesitation from los+one too, as they still have some shenanigans going on upstairs.
Be scared, cameraman. Come on.
Overwatch
he's
that.
dead.
However,
No!
NIP, no! Pino are able to press right back out against this. Maya does not have
Dash is
line of sight. Dash coming in, though, through the back flip. More like they entered through trophy window, and that opens up a pathway for Maya to sneak up as well, since they only really have the one player on site left over. Dots is also pushed forward into the office setup and is down to at least one player. There's the confirmation against Wizard. What a turnaround here from the remaining three on los+one. Seemed like the execute had been killed outright, but they back up, reanalyze their position, and were able to reinsert themselves for what is ultimately a successful round. Beautifully done by los+one to get them back in the game.
Ninjas in Pyjamas staying active on the play, John. That's what wins him the round there. He throws that light screen through, and instead of just standing outside and being like, hey guys, do you want me to toss another light screen? He just went over to trophy window, throws another light screen in that you see there, and inserts himself in the back end instead. The trophy position there worked out so very well for them. A huge flank, and also just super active play out of the sense the entire time. He was constantly there to try and assist his teammates with any situation that they were trying to face, and that's exactly what won them that round. So very well done from Dash, and in fact he's soft blocking the sense yet again here, and you know, why not? The 417, a really strong gun, and Sense's utility quite annoying if there's nobody that can see through it.
You can kind of do a similar cut for the... Okay, wow, they're going real crazy with this now. Hold on a second. Cameraman.
Not too bad of a lineup change either, because Moosey's on Warden, so...
Yeah, bringing the Grim in, which is not an operator we see really used at all. So we're going to have to wait and see how los+one will look to try and incorporate this. And his gadget, which has been quite underwhelming the like 1 or 2 times I've seen it get picked up from pro play so far. And that's generally been the consensus for him inside of normal games as well. So we're going to have to see if los+one can find a little bit more use out of this not very much loved operator.
Yeah, Grim, not exactly the greatest operator. I can think of about 20 other operators that are more valuable in Grim's slot than Grim.
los+one's on a heater right now. They're like, okay, the sense play worked. I got a real cooking recipe for you guys. That's what's going on right now on the los.
They're not going for the strategy. They're going for the BM, and which is the strategy because it's mental warfare.
Like, let him cook. Let him cook.
Exactly. They're going for the mental warfare, and I respect that because that's what actually wins you matches. You know, you might win the game with a cheeky strategy. You win matches with mental warfare. So we'll see if Ninjas in Pyjamas are prepared. Honest to God, I think they really are, John, because if you look at what Grim has and what he's capable of with these B launchers, you know what he gets countered by? Well, my discs and ADSs. And we have both of those on Ninjas in Pyjamas. It's going to hold up at least some rotations here, make it where they can't push forward, but Bs don't stop bullets.
True, they do not. They just obscure your vision a little bit. That's all the effect they're having right now. Maya has struck first for the attackers, though, after initially los+one loses Loban on the way in. Cons will be prevented from ascending the stairs because of the current presence from the Bees, and in fact, I think they might have latched on him for just a second there. That's the siren call for Dash to chuck his nade in, finds the outright elimination, and now it's los+one with the player advantage. Keep in mind, they made this play very early on in the round as well, just kind of chuck the utility at Solari's side, but oh no, this dash in from Moosey and Pino. The reignition of the defensive aggression has retaken control of the round here as they trade back 2 more kills, destroy most of the map control that los+one had worked for at that point. Maya now hoping to get another peek out of this inside player, but unfortunately, they've lost their edge, and they're really just going to have to grasp at straws for another pickup or 2 here. They're going to look for any way to get back in the site. Dot's already trying to force the issue on his lonesome. It does not work as Wizard hard counters him. Nice find for Maya, at least, still through that very slight peek into the window. Knocks out Moosey, but 2 more players to go. Does have intel on 1, but there is a deployable shield heavily supporting that player's position on top of just a natural map wall and a whole other second player that I don't believe Maya now has info on, but still, it's not a great angle to try and work here from the 1v2. Hoping for good timing, but there we go. The first pickup just doesn't read the rotate from Pino. Smart plays from him as he shuts it down, and what ultimately becomes a 1v1 there.
Mina is such a scary player in the clutch, decapitating Ninjas in Pyjamas left and right, but finally Pino is able to fell them. Some nice shots there out of the AK-12, but Ninjas in Pyjamas able to at least stave off the penultimate point now from los+one, making this a heck of a lot more feasible, especially as they round off to Bar Gaming yet again. One of their more successful sites that we've seen. It's going to be a slight adjustment here in strategy, as well as Psycho work his way in on the Valkyrie.
Cameraman might be cooking with this Grim for a second time. I can see the potentiality for how it could work, specifically to clear out the library hold. But we'll see, as the question now is, was it effective enough in the previous round? I think it certainly limited the movement from NIP enough when it came to aggressive plays they may have been trying to use to work against that Solarium clear, but ultimately, those abilities ended up expiring, and NIP made that play anyway. So I think they have made the ultimate decision to now switch away from this and go into a more traditional kind of clear setup for this map.
Yeah, I like the Nomad here a lot more. And the key factor here in why Grim, because I know some people are probably questioning, like, oh, why switch out Grim here if you need to, clear out the library position? Info is all great and good, right? And it's awesome when you know somebody's in a position. But you still have to kill them. That's the thing. Yeah. Like, you still have to, at the end of the day, A, shoot that person, or B, blow them up. So it's just one of the things where it's like, yeah, Grim can clear that out, but you're more than likely going to be able to just check that out with a drone anyways, and then you would more than likely want utility that can actually solve your issue or, hold a flank in this scenario, like with what we have for Cameraman with those air jabs. You already have the frag grenades on Loban. You have stuns to clear out with Dot as well as Maya, and you really don't need the info because you have logic bombs, and that vibration is very, very loud, so.
Well, once again, we are going to just wait out for the opening play from los+one as they're taking their time with this one, trying to make sure that, once again, when they do establish initial positioning, it is going to be a pretty swift take, leaving not a whole lot of room left for NIP to retake that or potentially pull out any flanks or something similar as well. So it's a very measured take. As once again, the defensive setup is quite strong. NIP playing into the usual default here for the bar defense. No surprises when it comes to the way they've set up library upstairs. Just as usual, is a bit of a tricky punch for los+one to try and land. So they're making sure they have as much control as possible over here on bedroom side of the map, and as solid of a positioning to try and jump off from to hopefully execute on that without losing too many of their own players. That's the key factor. You can throw everyone at it, but you could very likely lose just as many, if not more, players than your opponents in the process. So it's about kind of cleaning that cut up a bit, is what the attackers ultimately look to do here.
See if they can salve this wound. Ninjas in Pyjamas are almost done stitching this right here. Oh, and what a shot from Dash. You thought Nip had it. You thought Muzi had the read, but surely not. Dash still with a decent amount of HP as well. Can at least suffer 2 shots if it's from the proper weapon. Gonna try and adjust himself back onto site. Psycho's holding things down still upstairs as the trades will ensue. Some nice shots from him and a great read from the library rotation coming in from the offensive side. It's down to the 3 versus 1 as the crosses have been lethal from the defense. Dash now the lone soul as he'll clamber his way through Fireplace Hall. Knows one's up on the balcony. Gonna go soul searching. The air jab will knock him down, but he can't find him in time. Finally, he'll be able to pick up Psycho. Has some time, but Cons! Oh my! Right off the angle. Plays the cover so very well. Only see a pixel of him as he fries the last remaining member of the offense. And that'll be it for round 10.
Perfect play from Cons right there, as well as Psycho supporting very nicely from the kind of default out position over by library, but it was obviously Cons doing most of the heavy lifting in the actual kill department there. And perfect timing to kind of reinsert himself and help out Psycho when the need arose for that as well. Beautifully done. Bit of a mistake when it came to the lineup, in my opinion, for los+one. Just didn't really seem like it had anywhere near the utility to properly clear out either part of that setup, whether it was Cons playing for the top of blue or, of course, Psycho playing from the default position outside of that one. The nades from the sledge didn't really appear to do much, if anything was done, and they did not seem to have enough coverage in the form of flashes and whatnot to burn out the rest of the supporting utility mitigation that was sitting directly next to those 2 defenders there. So los+one just potentially a little bit of a mispick when it came to what they brought to the table, and we'll now have to see how they course correct on that one. Obviously, NIP is going to be shifting sites, so the priorities will be a little different here for los+one as they are going back to that Grim to make the same cut they did the last time he was brought.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds left.
Well, it's going to be the kitchen defense, but not going to be getting the light screen strategy. Maybe the bees, like you said. Have the lion in here as well. We think that's a great addition, especially for teams that are pretty well tight-knit, when it comes to their synergy on the offensive perspective. Those big pickups and just the, info network that you can build with a character like Lion, you're able to get a lot of big pickups off of some of the harder to secure kills. As people aren't really allowed to move when you do use one of those EE1Ds, so pretty easy to try and chomp at the bit and see if you can pick up a nice frag off some info from a drone or something along the lines that might be a few paces out of reach in a normal situation. So now Maya and the rest of LOS will be out and on the field. The AK-12 back in hand from Maya. Sure to have some magic in store for us in round 11.
Cons you can see there as well, just kind of being the hop-out patrol for the rest of his teammates. Sees all those Claymore positions, but unfortunately none of his teammates really in a workable position to do anything crazy here. So the attackers are going to continue to set themselves up for an eventual press. Starting from Solarium, it looked like working their way deeper into the building from there. Loban already priming himself for the push forward. One nade has already been chucked out. Second one goes deep. A little too deep, unfortunately, to try and affect Pino. And Pino as well with the dash swing outside. Takes a risk in maintaining this position because that could happen as Dot now comes in on the upside down and repel. Directly counters him out. Overstays that welcome just a few seconds too long here. Thankfully, it's a 1-to-1 exchange, so they aren't going to lose too much sleep over that one. The nade's coming in fact, excuse me, the impact's coming in from below here. Does a little bit of damage to it looks like Cameraman. However, he's still kicking as he's made that push forward into Solarium and now has the cutoff. Those bars getting in the way a little bit, but he's still able to control the spray to take down Cons on top of the kill that his teammate just found a few moments prior. Down to just the insight players now to try and defend this one. And they're not even in the site. Excuse me, these are the extended players upstairs right now. Wizard and Muzi trying to force their way back in and stop that plant from going off. Still a minute for los+one to make it work. Wizard trying to be unpredictable here, but it doesn't seem the comms are fully out to Dots' position on the upside down repel. He strikes again. Maybe they assumed he had already repelled in. Muzi will at least counter that very same player out, but now he's got to stop the plant. Impossible to do now, but he can at least nearly get the plant here. Unfortunately, doesn't get credit for it there, as I think he downed the player, but Dash trades him out too quickly, so the round ends anyway in the favor of our attackers here.
LOS able to rekindle. Looked like they were sputtering out just for a bit there, but finally able to get one over on Ninjas in Pyjamas. And it was mostly due to the verticality here that they were able to steal away from Nip and translate into a fantastic plant attempt. Sent Nip into a frenzy, and they really weren't able to recoup from that point. A real chance for them that was given up from LOS, especially with a lot of the crossfires that we saw when it came down to the site and some of the other angles that they were able to find upstairs. That being said, though, now on potentially the last round of Chalet, if los+one has anything to say about this, Ninjas in Pyjamas is going to send us downstairs as they don't feel as confident in their kitchen defense, and LOS already making some big sweeping adjustments to try and hit this basement position. That's why you see that Thatcher as well as that Thermite working their way in. Some more grenades will be in tow as well for Maya.
los+one having to work hard for this 6th round. There's only one opportunity to try and close it down. NIP going to give us a very complicated setup for los+one to try and work their way through. NIP has usually gotten the better out of los+one inside of this half. They're now going to have to try and find it at least one more time to keep their hopes alive for at least picking up the first map of this series. If not, Los is going to begin their tear just as close as we saw this series go the last time these two teams faced off, of course, during the Brazilian LCQ. But now we're going to have to wait and see if they can forge a little bit of revenge, much like we saw being primed for Europe a few days ago. Potentially pushing los+one through to the end of this bracket instead of NIP, as we saw the last time these teams faced off. Potential quick advance going to be made into the basement site, and indeed it will. Dash wasting no time moving forward. Actually will turn the Goyo barricade back against the defenders too by blocking off the rotates. However, the wine players are able to hold the line, and Loban traps Wizard behind his own barricade right there, behind his own delay attack, as we see the burning incendiary still holding him back from being able to push through the stairs. So Loban cuts him off there. It's a delicate plan, of course, for Cameraman because of the losses they sustained. And no, the plan itself is denied with less than a second to go on it, as Psycho makes a push forward just as Loban went upstairs to check for flanks. Probably the worst possible position for that case to be in as well. If Loban takes even an inch or two further step towards that, he's going to reveal himself to these players down below. Is aware of the fact that players on the floor, though, so adjust the angle in time, but is not going to catch the dash from Pino. So overtime is triggered, and we'll go the full distance to find a winner for our first map of this series.
slipping through the hands of both of these teams. They have these micro advantages. It seems like they have the positioning necessary in order to take these rounds, but once again, it's going to slip through the cracks for LOS as they had a strong showcase there, at least to fend off Nip initially, but some of the better positioning, especially when it came to the blue hall, as well as the, little push through they got to have back through line, able to really thwart a lot of what LOS had going on. And like you said, the overwatch there from Dokkaebi was really the last straw that broke the camel's back for this situation, as you really just need to maintain. You got to hold true, try and trust your audio for those rotations up top, but wanted to trust the eye sockets instead and went just a little bit too far away from his friend. Ended up getting him killed, and well, that's the round there, isn't it? Just in Pyjamas able to finally get that last round that they've been seeking for some time and force this OT, and now potentially with the opportunity to take things here on Chalet.
Attackers are moving to defuse a bomb.
We'll wait and see who ends up coming out on top of this one. A very back and forth game so far. Neither team really making a huge number of mistakes, in my opinion. This has just very much been a game of two very good teams adjusting around each other and changing up the scope of that game in the process. So we'll have to see who can continue to make those necessary adjustments to ultimately end up on top of this one. As there's no real clear winner, as you might obviously suspect with the fact that we've gone to OT. Another potential quick play being lined up by NIP, although there will be some restraint on this one. No direct rush, as we saw that had somewhat mixed results for our attackers on the previous round here. Going to hold themselves back. Let los+one tried to set up their defense a little bit more prominently here. More importantly, see if there's going to be any aggressive reaction to that quick opening of Snowmobile Garage. Not seeing much of it. los+one are holding themselves back quite prominently right now, so it's up to NIP to make the next move more than anything.
With only a minute off the clock, they definitely have a lot of time in order to get it done. Plenty of info game to work around as well, and these crossfires already proving to be beneficial as Wizard will take down one. There's going to be Dash as well, who's had a heck of a game. In fact, the top frag currently in the entirety of the server, 14 and 10 now with that fresh death here in OT. LOS will definitely want him back, and they're going to head for the basement as this tornado is swinging its way through the rest of the house. Cameraman going to try and find some safety in behind this bookshelf. So far, so good for him. Both the drones, I do believe, missing, but he's going to go hunting now. He'll get both the drones, but might lose his life because of this. So many rotations, so many different angles he's got to worry about. A lot of soft destruction available for Ninjas and Pyjamas. You got to be worrisome for him here.
Yeah, certainly the case, but Cameraman actually, from the way the silhouettes are currently positioned, in a fairly secure position at the end of the day, which even for me is quite surprising. Like you were saying, there's so many different angles, so many ways to take him out. You'd think they'd be able to crush on one of them, but apparently not. Cameraman still just free to play this out on the inside of Dining Room, and obviously, as our Observer just pointed out, there has that very good option to escape, and oh yeah, that's not where he wants that Nitro to go, so Observer pointing out something a bit more relevant here as he's got the Nitro down below. Still fragging out, though, on the inside of this position, as now he finally strikes back in the favor of his team, equalizes us into that 4v4, and will scurry away to the same corner he had been playing in a few seconds prior. No drone presence for members of NIP to scope him out. Cameraman even gets away with even more damage, this time I believe against either Pino or Muzi. The gates are closing in against him, though. He can't escape forever. There's the kill we should have seen about a minute ago, as finally NIP have been able to get a grapple onto Cameraman, but now, do they have enough time left to attack the site? They're only up by one player, two of which are under 50 HP. Dots just is not going to play this patiently at all. Swings out on his own regard to take down Cons. That's the case down on the ground. We got a shotgun lurking in the corner. An easy pickup for Loben. Psycho trades it up for one, but that'll be it as the site hold maintains for los+one, and they take the first round of overtime.
Incredible from los+one. Ninjas in Pyjamas. There is no teeth to the clear here, John. They know where everyone is, but it's a one-front assault. There's no one really pushing in from the game side. Yeah, fireplace hall, that's kind of a scary area with the given setup from LOS, right? You have that mirror window to worry about and these other things, but there's no real bodies over in the game section. They still go with that, more one-front angle, and it doesn't really work out for them because of that. the majority of losone able to push back against that area over in Trophy and end up taking out quite a few NIP bodies because of it. And that's just to begin kind of, you know, the slow descent for NIP inside of that round. And this might be the start of the fall here in overtime. You know, it's a hotly contested OT here in Rainbow Six Siege. You only got 3 rounds, so they could already be sent down the river right here.
Well, let's see if that'll be the case, as NIP obviously had the opportunity to do this themselves a few rounds back and was not able to necessarily capture it. It's not going to be los+one with these technically 2 opportunities to try and win things outright on their own regard. Just a bit more of a convincing scoreline here if they can do it in only 2 out of the 3 rounds for overtime. NIP, of course, going for the more default setup up here inside of Library, are going to venture outward from normal expectations on their operator selection, but just by a tiny bit, just boosting the trap capabilities of the setup a little bit by having Psycho go over towards the Thorn instead of something else that we would tend to see here. Either way, though, it won't change up the status quo for NIP all that much, as that's very much a free selection anyway, and they've got everything else to support that position, both the Womidus as well as the Jaeger holds ready for themselves. And now they've got an even better position to play from, as Pino has struck true against Cameraman on the Nomad right at the start of this round, knocking him out. All 3 of those air jabs are gone. The flash utility more than likely being carried, or potentially the breaching charges also go with that one. A clean kill to be found by Pino here at the beginning of the round, and it is going to cost los+one in terms of utility.
It's going to force them into a disadvantage that they're not really looking forward to solving, but definitely have the ability to. EMP's out here are going to allow Maya to get some nades inside now and really hope these hit their mark. Dot's just trying to send it in and see if anybody is holding the window. Really kind of just a check there to see if LOS can try and get things to go off on an odd timing, and it really doesn't work out for them. The E1D out there from Dash, but again, just really no assistance at the end of the day, and really nothing for them to work off of, since Ninjas in Pyjamas dispatched literally every single LOS member that swung them. Dash more than likely soon to be felled as well, so rotate the crossfire back in towards the hallway. It's going to be Pino for the flawless round. That'll be a first one of the game, and it's going to require every single round here on Chalet to dictate a winner.
It's important to note, once again, for los+one there, that's like the 2nd or 3rd time we've seen them try to go for like an all-in take rate like that. It just hasn't really worked out as well as they would have liked. This is more than likely that effect that the new leadership, or at least the process of incorporating some of that new leadership into the team, is going to have, as you'll see them make really straightforward attempts at strats like that one, and it just falls flat on their face. So don't expect that to make a repeat, obviously, later on in the series or in the game here, but just the trials and tribulations, of course, I think, of incorporating some of the new leadership and some of the new strats that may be coming along with that. Will cost them the round, of course, and now put them all the way up to round 15, where NIP has a very good chance, especially coming off the momentum from that previous round, to close this one down for them instead.
Yeah. Like I said, it was mostly a timing thing. You know, like they were just trying to see if there was Ninjas in Pyjamas players that were truthfully holding the site. Sometimes you just got to check it, right? And they sent it, and it didn't work out. That's okay. They got another round, and they knew that when they attempted it, right? You could just see from the way, like the body language that they had for that strategy, that was a whole check at the end of the day. They EMP'd the top thing. Everybody swings all at once. Hopefully the distraction upstairs has kind of, you know, people focused on that, and you slip into bar stock, maybe get 2 kills, and you guys get a free plant. You know, you never really know. So nice little attempt from them there at the end of the day, but definitely not going to be one that's beneficial if you look at it from that angle. We'll have to see if they can potentially fix things up now, as they'll be back in their comfortable home, as they'll be on defense, and they've definitely been way more lethal when it comes to this end of the ball game.
Yeah, a bit of an advantage given over to los+one because of that. We'll see if they can encapsulate it. They still have to deal with the lock from the previous site play, of course, that have made down to the basement, if memory serves me correctly. So NIP hopefully having a little bit of an easier time making their second attack work because of this. Maybe still giving them that possibility to close out here. Will be some pressure against Dash, of course, as he'll be now waiting on the top end of the site inside of Office. Pino tries to make that play forward, but Dash does appear to be ready for it when the swing comes through. So that Buck is going to have some second thoughts. Pino, in this case, will quickly back away from the situation to reanalyze it and maybe push it again with a teammate in a few moments. Open in the meanwhile here, trying to prep for something. Not really a whole lot for him to potentially play off of, though, that you guys can see from the silhouettes. NIP are nowhere near that, so that impact run out would have done absolutely nothing had he committed to it.
Lots of utility game, but nothing to be said past that. Some drones down at the hands of the Solus, as well as the rest of the team. Psycho, no more logic bombs, as his last one was just expensed. Somebody just on the other side of this reinforcement. But Psycho, is he brave enough? Look into this. Dash more than willing as he's playing with fire, both of them back and forth. He's got somebody to hold the cross on the door. Pino, he's working his way in from Ego Balcony. Somebody's got to kill somebody for LOS. It's going to be Dash that steps up first. They'll fight back into this and make it a 3 versus 4, make it a 2 versus 4 instead, make it a 1 versus 4 instead, as Muzi gets a triple kill. It's down to Dots on site. He'll rotate in towards Trophy. Nothing you can really do from that position anymore because that was patched out a million years ago, guy outside. Don't stand up against that kitchen window. He's going to rotate down towards Trench instead. And have a few bodies upstairs, but this is a tall ask for Dots.
Yeah, unfortunately for Dots and the rest of los+one here, NIP just with perfect management of their ability to isolate out the los+one members on a one-by-one basis. And los+one's setup, unfortunately, not doing them any favors for that perspective either. We saw it from Dash's POV, was probably somewhat similar for the other players as well, but Dash just no support anywhere near him. So, well, yeah, he's still able to go off and pick up those 1 or 2 kills. Ultimately, with proper positioning, NIP are able to counter him out entirely, as well as the rest of the team. As they take control, they need the full 15 rounds to do it, but it's ultimately NIP that takes the hard-fought victory, 8-7 in their favor, and the 1-0 advantage along with it. One more map, and this series will be going into the hands of NIP. A very well-fought one, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, well-fought, hard-fought, strenuous, you could say, for both of these teams, as highlight plays all around. I think every single player in this entire, lobby was able to express something that really showed why these teams were so successful. And I'm excited to get into the follow-up map, John. We're going to send you guys to a quick break. We'll be right back with map 2.
Gamers, UNICEF and I need you by our side for a real-life mission. A mission to protect the rights of every child. After news cameras have left, UNICEF is here. Every day, everywhere, but particularly where it's needed most. Did you know that more than 170 million children need UNICEF's humanitarian aid this year? At Gamers Without Borders, many of you have already chosen UNICEF, and I thank you for that. Choosing UNICEF is the easiest and smartest decision you can make, because you're investing in a child, and investing in a child guarantees lifelong returns, not only for that child, but also for their community and for our world.
The divisions in the world are stark. Recent years have shown some of the largest natural disasters ever in history. And that really hits hardest the people who had the least to begin with. These people need help. It would be a real tragedy if all these advances in science and health and technology only benefit people in a position to pay for them. There should be no lesser standard if you happen to be poor. These problems can be overcome. Direct Relief is a humanitarian, nonprofit health organization. The focus has been on the least fortunate, most vulnerable people. On a good day, things are tough for a lot of people in this world and in this country. And what we can do is mobilize private resources for their benefit and make it available free of charge. We're the first nonprofit in the history of the United States to obtain accreditation just like a commercial distributor. And it's been expanded geographically to every country in the world and every state and territory of the United States. What's now Direct Relief officially was started in 1948 as a private effort of a war immigrant businessman named William Zimden. The basic guiding principles of a war immigrant businessman really influence what Direct Relief has done ever since. And they begin with just serving the people who need help. We have this great privilege of engaging with people who come in from very different backgrounds, but with the same purpose of trying to just do something good. It doesn't matter if you're typing or talking on the phone or working on the warehouse floor. they're all part of an effort that means something bigger, and that is the fuel that kind of keeps you going. It gives you some sense that there is a way to make meaningful progress, even for a little organization that started at a kitchen table, but that's what provides motivation in life. The notion that many people, just by virtue of where they're born, the color of their skin, the country they live in, they're going to get sicker, they're going to stay sicker longer, and they're going to die sooner. That's pretty good motivation. These issues are too big for any one organization to address. We really work hard to honor these guiding principles, invite people to participate, and we are sure thankful for the thousands of people across the country and world who have become part of Direct Relief by virtue of their participation.
Progress is a race that has no end. After every finish line, another challenge awaits. How can we continue to push innovation in a sport at the forefront of technology? This is how. Discover how Aramco and the Aston Martin Formula One team aim to meet Formula One's sustainable fuel targets. Aramco, powered by How.
Welcome back to Gamers Without Borders. One map down, and it is a close series already, but NIP managed to take that first map in overtime. Demo, an all too familiar feeling for los+one. They've got to be angry at that one, don't they?
I mean, look at what they said in the little kind of pre-game interview. They said that they had issues with closing out games, and it's happened again. They had so many opportunities. I mean, it felt to me, and anyway, this game, it was NIP, their attacks were way too slow, but then Team One and their attacks were way too quick. None of them had like a middle ground.
Exactly, yeah, and indeed NIP on their attacks, they maybe had a slower start to this very defensive favorite, Chalet, and coming into this game, NIP previously on this map, Chalet, had their best attacking win rate. That did not show today, but then they do win that final round in overtime, where the attack does really matter the most to win this game out in an 8-7 scoreline. A very good performance, honestly, from Muzi, but if you look at the bottom of the scoreboard, for NIP, Wizard and Psycho, those are usually your players that you expect to be on the top of the scoreboard for NIP. Being Dash obviously had a great game too. Meanwhile, halfway through the game, it felt like it was way more of a team effort from the side of los+one. The numbers were way more even. It kind of, you know, went apart. Very good performances from Dash and Dotzer. But if you look on the side of NIP, two players that I really expect to be stepping up weren't stepping up, but then they were still able to win that game. And it's really important to be able to bounce back from that. NIP had great entries as well. They were really dominating in that part too. The conversion wasn't always the greatest, but it comes down to that final attack where they win that final round. And indeed, as you know, you guys mentioned before, once again in overtime, and I think los+one will be taking this themselves pretty hard.
Yeah, painful pill to have to swallow from los+one, but can they bounce back? I don't know. We're going to have to find out. One thing I do have to mention, Demo, please correct me if I'm wrong. Cameraman, right? The power roster change, everyone's really excited. He's bringing that little extra confidence boost to the rest of his team by joining up. He put up really good numbers early on in that map. And like I said, providing that little bit of confidence boost. But, you know, he didn't actually get a kill from something like round 6 to round 11. So I feel like there's a possibility that there's like a contributing factor to that dip in those rounds that allowed NIP to climb back. Now, I'm not saying it's all down to just one individual, but Cameraman was obviously providing that additional bit of motivation, because I feel like los+one came out of the gates hot.
Yeah, I mean, Cameraman, he's not playing like the fun ops on attack. Yeah, as we say, he's playing Grim, for goodness sake. You know, what does he expect to happen? But I think for this game in general, I think every player actually played pretty well. I mean, every player's hitting above 8 kills. That's pretty good if you look at a game of Siege. So, yeah, I think it's been a great game. Obviously, it could have went either way. NIP being able to pull it out in round 15. And honestly, it just, where do you go from here? Because, like, is it going to be the same intensity? Because it seems like both teams, just the passion, the energy, like, can they keep that up? That's the question.
I feel like we're seeing, I think Blue said this during the game, that, you know, this is actually just like seeing two teams who are both incredibly strong. They're not making a huge amount of mistakes. I know that you've already mentioned that pace plays a big part in it, but I feel like this is either team's game to lose. This is more of a mental game now, Anne.
Yeah, and if you think or look into the mental department, I feel like losone might be taking a really big hit here. They had 2 rounds specifically where they could have converted their lead into an actual map win, and they didn't do that. And we heard in the interview Lobin say, oh, this is the thing that we've been struggling with, this is what we need to be working on. To go into such a fresh best of 3 after not having competed at the major, you know, getting scrims in with your new IGL, your new teammate, facing your first best of 3, having 2 of those opportunities to close it out and not doing it, that must have been a huge kick for themselves. But the little bit of hope that they have left for the second match, or, well, they do have a lot of hope left because it was a close game, but the hope and the thing that they should focus on is the last time they played NIP on Bank, which is going to be our second map, they beat them 7-0, which is a very dominant, very convincing scoreline, so they're hopefully looking to replicate that this time.
Ooh, okay, so there might be a glimmer of hope for them yet. We've got our head-to-head graphic to show you from our 2 players who basically pulled their weight the most, let's say. We got Dash and we got Muzi, but, you know, fairly even scoreline representative for both teams really there, Demo.
Yeah, it's what you expect. Muzi, I thought, had a great major. Dash, just watching him play, I think he was really good in moments where kind of los+one, just they need a kill for their team, and he just goes for a swing. I mean, 9 times out of 10 it backfires, but I don't know, any gunfight that guy went into, he won it. So all credit to him. He's done one of those days.
I like how you're mentioning the backfiring indeed when he goes for the swing. If you look at the entry and the cost, that's where you see the big differences. Muzi being really active and advantageous in those entry engagements, whereas Dash is usually losing out on them. And the cost on the side of Muzi also being way more consistent. For the fact that this one, all 15 rounds, having an 87% cost is very, very impressive, because that means that in almost all of the rounds, you have done something to help your team or to contribute to your team winning the round.
Also, an honorary mention for sure, I have to say. Round 6, Wizard, that snap was absolutely outrageous. Gun skill at its finest. You know, we have to say that individuals, you know, they don't win maps, but they can make huge impacts on rounds. And ultimately, by making that impact on the round, you're going to then give an extra bit of motivation, an extra bit of confidence to the remainder of your team, who then can ultimately feel like they can swing it back round. Was there any point during that map, let's say NIP were in that deficit, let's say we don't know what the end score was, did you feel like NIP were going to swing this back round, or did you feel like this was los+one's when we were at, you know, I think it was 5-3 when there was the largest like deficit between them, Demo?
I thought it was los+one. I thought they were going to win. Like, I just think that they had the confidence that you would expect out of this team. You know, they really wanted to beat NIP. You know, that grudge match, that revenge comes into it. So for them not to win, I agree with Anne. I think now you have to question their mental. Where is their head at? Because they'll be kicking themselves. They'll be sitting there thinking, guys, we should have won that. How have we lost that map?
Well, let's see if they can do it. It is time to head back into the remainder of our series. Will this be a 2-0, or is this going to go the distance? Blue and Stokes, what do you think?
Well, thank you very much, and should be an interesting question to try and answer here as we get ourselves ready to jump into map number 2. We'll be shifting over towards a bank for this second map between these two teams, and with just how close things were in map number 1, I think we're going to be in for a treat here in map number 2. los+one's chance for revenge is certainly alive and well, as you heard Anne mention there, had quite a dominating scoreline the last time they played this out against NIP, so there's going to be that chance for a return to form there, but they'll have to potentially curtail some of the more wild strategies we were seeing them to deploy towards over the course of that previous map. That did lose them a couple of rounds when they kind of boldly went for a few executes that just didn't really work out, but if they're able to get a handle on that, things are looking promising, in my opinion at least, for los+one to swing it back around and take us to a map 3. Stokes, let's get your take on it.
I totally agree with you. You know, I think the veteranism of Ninjas in Pyjamas really shining through there, and just some more of their natural tendencies to slow down the game, really punishing los+one at a lot of different turns there. And that's really where we saw the big difference from some more of the crucial plays, because I think, as we all said, you know, these teams are very, very close right now. It's just some more of those micro moments and, you know, some of the little disadvantages that they're both able to exploit in those tiny moments that have really, really turned the script on both of them and made this showing so very close. So I really think that even though, you know, the last time that they played up against each other on bank, it wasn't exactly, you know, an easy affair for Ninjas in Pyjamas, I think that this is still going to be a heck of a game, especially because you have Cameraman coming in. Cameraman, although, you know, an amazing IGL, he's more than likely bringing some more of his own strategy and some more of his own likeness to this team than what LOS has had before. So Ninjas in Pyjamas might be able to put a bead on that, but we'll see if it's a happy marriage here in between the team and their new IGL as we jump into bank.
Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. See if los+one can rebound here, or if it's going to be a fast 2-0 for NIP to repeat the victorious results that came out of the regional LCQ for the major just a few months back as well. los+one still trying to get the revenge for that and push them one step closer to the G8 qualifier, and of course, the lion's share of the charitable prize pool that they'll be able to donate to one of our 6 chosen charities at the end of the tournament, on top of course, if they win, getting that qualification spot into G8, where they themselves will have the opportunity to earn a heck of a lot of cash at the main event in a few months. Bans are rolling in, though. First one has already come through for los+one as they remove Ying from play, and the counter ban coming out now from NIP to round out our attacker-sided bans. Monty going to be knocked out, as they do not want to contend against that from los+one this time.
Yeah, and I mean, why would you, right? He's also just a very annoying pick on maps that are more congested, like the setup for bank, right? Like, there's some decent open areas, like open area and kitchen and things along those lines, but, you know, when you look at the top floor in the basement, Monty thrives in a position like that. So, strong ban, most definitely. Valkyrie coming out as well, as Ninjas in Pyjamas doesn't want to try and deal with that extra info game that can be thrown to the high arcing areas of bank. And last but surely not least, it's going to be a zombie that's banned out by los+one.
Seconds are bans out of the way and takes us into the first round now, where we will have to sit back, wait and see if los+one is going to be able to control a second map here to tie us up at that 1-1 scoreline and send us to a third map. They are going to be going directly for the basement hold to get things started, so no surprise there when it comes to that initial site selection. That is still very much the go-to for a lot of teams. Plenty to control inside of this site if you are the defenders, and plenty to mitigate out from the attackers as well. So hopefully giving los+one the best chance to start out on the right foot. We'll see if that is going to be the case. NIP in the meanwhile, not bringing anything too surprising, to try and work their way past all those defensive issues they'll have to get over in order to attack this site properly, but they are going to go for the OSA variation of this take. So expect strong pressure to come from the default route over on server side to try and make that utility the most useful. Or it could be a side insertion from the garage too, if they just want to have Psycho kind of set up over there and establish a side angle. It's up to the team ultimately and how they want to use her.
Well, the strategy speaks turtle from both sides, right? They really want to set up and try and duke it out. But as we know, when it comes to Brazil, they're a little bit more aggressive when it comes to their swings than other regions, and they're quite successful when it comes down to that activity when they do end up going for it. So we'll see if some more of these measures out of both teams end up making this a bit more decisive quickly instead of what could be a long, drawn-out process. Cameraman with a pretty creative yokai off rip to get a good read on who will be coming down the garage ramp here. He will keep one person around. I think Dash will stay on that just so he has the audio here, whereas it's Wizards going to try and at least get rid of that yokai, but nothing coming of it at least at the moment. As for everybody else, though, going to begin working their way in towards the building. Going to have Muzi and Psycho in tow. This will be a difficult position for Cameraman to try and work around. Might try and look for some assistance a little on down the line, as this may get worrisome.
So the garage path for the OSA is chosen here, at least to start things out. Psycho could just be setting up for another teammate and then rotating around, but we will wait and see. It's very much an all or nothing style of play if you do fully commit it towards the inside here. And we can see now Cameraman stealing away some intel. Muzi being the one to capitalize on it, though, as he knocks out Cameraman outright because of that spot edge. Beautifully played by our attackers to get things rolling here. And now we'll have to see how they carry it forward. This Cameraman caught out in a very exposed position. Costs him greatly. So that is going to remove the Echo utility from usage in the late round as well, assuming he had a second one prepped a bit closer to the site.
Unfortunate circumstances befall Cameraman, but LOS+one will quickly recoup. Wizard will go down. That's a nice pickup as well. So that's the Thatcher off the board. So these Electro Claws will stick around. So this hatch play not going to be available for Ninjas in Pyjamas now, like what Psycho is currently standing on. Psycho with a nice pickup, though, and this makes it more than feasible for Ninjas in Pyjamas. Dash with some tags, though. The drone game working beautifully for them as they'll reassess the situation and be able to at least deal some damage to Dash. He'll be forced back down the elevator, and LOS+one will hold on to the base floor with 45 seconds remaining.
After being overwhelmed by drones there, as you can see, he'll be forced out there. Tried to take the duel from the inside of elevator, but really stretching the max range on throwing out more than one shot from the TCSG. That spray is going to get pretty wild pretty quickly. Just not able to connect as much damage as he would have liked onto the advancing members of NIP in the lobby. With that, NIP is pretty much ready to go and right on cue as well. We are finally down to the last 25 seconds, but that's also going to prompt for the original Toxic Babes, the first one, in fact, from Dots, to come out here and stop some of the pressure from bleeding in on NIP's side. NIP have not potentially accounted for this one. This is on top of any potential Goyo delay that's still to come out as well. NIP don't have a choice. They've got to force the issue, and unfortunately, they're forcing it directly into the angles that los+one are more than prepared to fight out. With that said, Khans is finding at least one exchange here. Muzi trying to force himself in, and Khans is mid-plant. He'll succeed in throwing it down onto the ground as well, but now Maya works his way back in and immediately refrags out both the remaining NIP players to win out this round for los+one instead. Plenty of time, of course, for the counter defuse. He's going to pop off a little bit, and it's a very much deserved clutch here for Maya and the rest of los+one.
Maya was the player to watch the last time LOS+one and NIP faced off in the Brazil League LCQ. Once again, going to be the slayer of Ninjas in Pyjamas in this round. NIP with a fantastic push in through the garage, and really it looked like the world was their oyster. They were just going to set pace for Bank here yet again, but definitely not the case as LOS+one get things done in the basement. But let's be real, it was mostly Maya.
Yeah, once again, massive props to NIP for having the just overall amount of patience they had to try and make that all-in-one play work. And as we've seen, of course, back in the first map too, it's very scary watching that happen from the caster's POV, because it just looks like they're about to walk into a whole hot mess. But they're still able to make things work with a few trades going into their pocket, and nearly are still able to control things, especially once they get that plant down onto the ground, and Khans is able to kind of rejoin the festivities now that he's not preoccupied, of course, by the drone or by the plant work that he had to do there. But either way, NIP ultimately faltered to the clutch from Maya. He instead brings it back for LOS+one and puts them on the right foot forward here to start out the game. They'll lock away their basement side, of course, and they'll shift upstairs to the not so much expected second floor hold here. We'll see how this one works out. Given their play style, I think this will be a pretty fitting choice for the team, especially considering they definitely want to be a bit more out and about when it comes to the early mid-round, and this is the perfect site to try and play out that strategy a bit more.
Ninjas in Pyjamas will open things up again here for round two, as we'll be asserting their dominance over the northwest portion of the map here. It'll be a top floor offense that they'll be looking at. The Thatcher pickup. This will definitely assist them with the top of square. The Selma charges will be able to break down the main walls, but it's going to be Lobbin with the run out from garage. A nice discovery, and I do believe Cameraman with some assistance on that too with the Yokais as he'll switch back over to the one in open area, try and figure out if anybody's on the top of square, but nothing to find. So they've already found their kill for the round. Lobin a little injured because of that, but definitely happy with the results.
Good drone work coming in here from Dots after he snipes away. Keep in mind, that's a defender-sided drone right now because it was stolen, of course, by Dots' utility. So he's going to have that full vision until someone from NIP notices, at least, onto the repel positions of Pino and potentially one more member of the squad if they try to commit themselves even more fully towards it. No one has been lost from los+one yet, so it is going to be a bit of a process of getting someone into a corner where they can peep that drone for the peek to support Dots if he's going to be the one being aggressive from that position. Dots once again even able to see still the drones working their way in from the inside of the building as well, so NIP going to have a hard time sneaking that very much needed intel into the back line of los+one's defense, meaning that they're just kind of grasping at straws for an entry right now. You can see Pino lurking around the J rotate, seeing if anyone from NIP wants to show face, but it's very much, or rather anyone from los+one wants to show face, but it's very much not the case. They're perfectly fine to wait this one out in their current positions. They've learned that lesson from the previous map, not to directly challenge this opening clear from NIP and kind of bait them in a little bit before they try to get crazy, and there we go. It'll work out, actually, firstly, for Dots, but Cons, respectfully enough, gets the trade at the same exact time against him. So 1-for-1 will start things off. But with Nip's earlier loss, they are still unfortunately on the back foot. Now down to a 3v4, and Psycho really struggling for any sort of map control to play off of here. Just tucks into the corner, but that pays off as Psycho or rather Maya takes the bait, and Psycho picks up another kill to equalize things now. Only 30 seconds left to go though, so NIP do need to start speeding things up, and I believe that's the current plan. Now with the swinging happening for Pino and the ascent on the spiral stairs from Wizard, is it going to be enough pressure that they don't seem to have full confidence to make this swing work? And there's a few positions that could immediately shut down this play, such as Lobin here on the inside of the elevator. It has not been scouted in advance, so he gets a two-piece for himself. 2 kills going the way of Lobin, 1 for Dash, and it's another successful hold here from los+one as they take a 2-0 lead over NIP.
A 2-piece and a nice little round for dessert there from Lobin. Very well done, and showcasing why LOS is so dangerous up against NIP in this position on Bank, is they're able to just delay things out time and time again. NIP trying to operate with just a very low clock and nothing they can really do from a position like that when they're also, you know, damaged in their info game. They can't really try and reassess the situation and, you know, apply themselves in a better way based off of that. So it's really difficult for them right now, but the good news is that los+one does now have to go to open area. The bad news is, with the recent history of Bank, a lot of teams a heck of a lot better at defending this site.
And once again, plays pretty nicely into los+one's strategy as well of wanting to try and bait the fights up from NIP in the early round. Just like we saw on the previous second floor site, where you really can't play directly in the site itself just because of the way that one sets itself up. There are some similarities here on at least the usual extensions we'll see to the open area site that play out very similarly to that. But away from that, of course, it's NIP now that's looking to make their corrections, and quite quickly as well, as if los+one managed to go for a straight 3-0 rotate at the beginning of this map, that could prompt an early timeout for them. Did not see a timeout from either team in the previous maps. They just steamrolled their way through it, and in all honesty, that's not too surprising when you consider just how close that game was. Might be looking at a different circumstance here, though, like I was saying before, if los+one continues their tear up to a 3-0.
So much info utility here for NIP. This Pulse pickup as well as the Solus are going to be super, super big for Los in this. The Lion and the Dokkaebi. On top of that, the Nook. The Pulse is fantastic up against Nook. Same for Solus, as she can see electronics, so he's working his way in, but it's going to be a nice find as Pulse a little distracted, especially with the E1D going off there. Just way too many things trying to process through their mind all at once, and Lobin will end up going down. A nice pickup from Muzi as well. He'll take down Dodds, even though there was a nice little camera placement there from Cameraman. Dash is going to be able to reinsert himself onto Pino, but Wizard there to pick up the pieces. So far, so good for Ninjas and Pyjamas in round 3.
Funny exchange from Dash. He's like, oh, the wall behind me is now gone. And oh, a buck.
Why is the wall behind me shooting? That's so strange.
Gets a little surprised that the shots are not aimed at him originally, and thankfully he's given the chance to course correct. Pino, I don't even think was fully aware that that player was right around the corner, so he gets a little bit of a surprise peekaboo against him, is knocked out by it, but once more, NIP with great control over these kind of mid-round gunfights. Very good communication for NIP right now too, so when a kind of chaotic situation like that occurs, they're pretty quick to throw that out in the comms and immediately get someone in position to counter that out, as we just saw right there. So now they take it down to a 4v2, but this is the problem area for NIP, and we saw this be the case in the last map too. They can set up for this execute, but they don't have the largest amount of confidence to deploy directly into these pre-placed setups that the two anchors from los+one are going to have for themselves. Should still be very easily workable for NIP, but there's a chance, just given how slowly NIP move from this point forward, that los+one may be able to leverage that slow play into a 2v4 clutch.
It's easier and easier by the second. Maya has to be aware of printer window. Oh, there's going to be a big pickup, but cameraman's already down, and now here's the issue. It's going to be all up to Maya. Maya's so strong as an individual, but up against three, it's a hard-fought task, and that'll go down. It'll be round 3 going into the back pocket of Ninjas in Pyjamas as they'll claim their very first one, los+one falter in open area.
You could see Maya having the right read on the situation too, playing into it exactly kind of as I described before, where NIP are going to take things very slowly, very like pre-prepared, basically try to slowly pinch out all the options for, in that case, what was Maya or whoever they may be trying to kill there. So we played directly into the corner, tried to be as unpredictable as possible, hoping to capitalize on the very slow, more predictable movements from NIP, and nearly caught 3 players, though I think actually only took down 1, although came very close to the spray to knocking out a few additional. Just could not make the clutch work outright, as NIP was far too well composed inside of their own push. Just making a very nice consistent play right there to finally get them on the board after 2 direct rounds, one up by the defense. So it'll be a 2-1 split on the first rotation. los+one will now be able to finally make a return to where they have had success previously, which starts out here and now in the basement.
Full line shift here for NIP as they know what's up with the basement. Plenty of hatch play especially, and that's why they drop the Selma charge wielding ace and pick up Habanda instead, as she's the hatch queen. Strongest when it comes to that hatch play, especially with her ability to reformat her X-Kairos in any way, shape, or form that she really wants to when it comes to her set amount. So drones upstairs as they'll be looking to try and clear things on the top floor initially. A couple of drones in towards the mid floor as well, as there is some paneling up, so signs of a good time and signs that Maya is more than likely in the area.
Still slow rolling here from NIPs. You might have come to expect at this point in the series. These two teams have a pretty good grasp on each other, and the best way that NIP has found to handle the sometimes more chaotic early openers from los+one is to just slow it down themselves and never really give our defenders that opportunity to excel in their own play style, kind of bait them into a few fights that NIP instead can hopefully control. And that has had pretty decent results so far. It's just things are sometimes falling out of their control as they push it to a later phase of the round. Thankfully, the most recent one has gone off quite swimmingly, so they're going to be feeling the confidence from that now as they try to suss out the position, most notably from Dash right now. But more than anything, just kind of clearing a path over towards that top square area and eventually the basement.
No harm, no foul for either team just yet. But definitely some pain waiting in the wings here from Dash's position. So he's now addressing the top floor. Oh, works his way in. Sledge has found somebody out on the balcony as well, but they can try and reinsert. They have a couple of players around square as well as main stairs. But Dash is going to try and hold on to this for as long as possible. Psycho still has a logic bomb as well, but with only a minute remaining, you really have to deal with him now. Wizard looking for the easier kills initially, but now has to try and get aggressive. He knows he's rotating around, and he gets the frag. Wizard with a nice adjustment there as well, as he crouches just under that death blow that Dash sent his way.
Working with Cons as well to make sure that that went off without too much of an issue, and hopefully a secondary exchange in the worst case had his teammate gone down. We've got some impedance now. In fact, it does not look like they can get the hatches open. No secondary EMPs, and obviously the sledge wouldn't have been helping them out. Okay, never mind. We do have Wizard, excuse me, on the Thatcher. I missed that detail. So they are going to be able to knock out these hatches. As quick correction on that. However, time is still getting low, so they're not going to have time to take out a whole lot of them. Just these primary ones in sight. I doubt they're going to sit back and mess around, of course, with the tertiary ones over on top of server, and of course over towards elevators. They do need to speed this up. This is the same problem for NIP, but even with this issue, they've still been able to make these side executes work. Patience from Muzi gets him the opener against Dots, and now opens up a pathway for Cons to go for the direct insight plant. A few more exchanges on the insight positions, and Loban as well brings the numbers down to a controllable point, but Cameraman gets caught by Muzi, trying to make his own play. Maya will get some damage onto Muzi, and of course have him finished off because of the insight play. It doesn't even realize that he actually had already down Cons there. So retakes the site with that realization and locks in another round for los+one with a great retake clutch there. 3-1 is the overall scoreline now for our defenders.
los+one just having that last layer necessary to retake and take that last kill. Is not only do they have the opener, but they also have the closer. Ninjas in Pyjamas still very strong when it comes to the execute, able to make their presence known and get the foothold necessary to get that plant down, and especially love the smoke play that we saw involved with that execute. But as I said, LOS just having that extra layer of defense is really what came back to be the necessary evil to fight off Ninjas in Pyjamas.
It's kind of the issue there with NIP's playstyles. It very much is with those light executes, all or nothing. I think they were hoping to capture a little bit more in terms of maybe knocking out an extra player or two from los+one in the process of those guys falling back. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case. And on top of Dash wasting out a massive amount of time with his roam up on the second floor, NIP just not able to get, I think, as clean of an entry as they wanted to there. So their post-plant positions never really established. los+one, specifically Loban, they're immediately bullying back into security to take back everything that had just been stolen by NIP, and pretty much immediately gets it done. So fast, he doesn't realize he had already downed the last player from NIP that would have been attempting to clutch there after, I believe, they had put down the case. That was Cons that did that. So let's move into round 5 and see once again if NIP can control the current loss of momentum they are suffering from here, as los+one gets closer and closer to just a straight shot up to 7 here to send us to map 3 on Villa.
Bomb located by attackers.
Ninjas in Pyjamas. I mean, looking to insert themselves here with Cons utility. Blow drones early on to identify the top floor position and see exactly how they want to try and address this. Also, so far, a very bang-up job of holding map control away from Ninjas in Pyjamas and making them work for it. Forcing these gunfights and forcing these big kills early, and yet again, we'll see the exact same thing go down as Dash just playing the balcony actively instead of letting Nip try and get inside and work their way into ATMs as well as use the far windows, and instead plays back into them and finds a big pick onto Psycho. This is going to limit a lot of their play. They do have the secondary EMPs of Cons, but those big EMPs work wonders and are definitely something that they're going to be missing.
Probably the worst site to potentially lose an opener and have zero room to immediately respond to it as well. los+one can now just kind of rest on their laurels a bit here, as the trade setup should be strong enough realistically to win them the round if they don't want to try to take any additional fights here. Pino is going to be even risking the team a little bit with the Overwatch, so he's just going to swing right in to try and take better positioning. They'll see that coming from a mile away. Dash quickly strikes back against that, and Wizard actually gets hit by an Echo drone somehow from all the way up top here. Not sure how Cameraman was able to swing that one, but he did it, and that's prompted a holdback from Wizard as he's not able to counter out any of the kills that los+one have found for themselves. And indeed, there is a trade, so it's not a perfect round, but it pretty much was from los+one there, as they do shut it down. Only losing that one player on the final trade. What's that?
So I said we'll call it a flawless. We'll be nice.
Yeah. It was like 99% of the way there, you know.
It's as close as you can get without it being flawless.
They missed like the second to last note on like Guitar Hero, you know. It's like you pretty much got it. Like,
yeah, they got that, and then a new guitar as well, because you definitely smashed the other one. Let's be real. Oh man, first time playing through on the hardest difficulty, you missed that second to last note. I don't know. You gotta throw it in the beanbag or something. Yeah, dude, that was the trick. That was the trick right there. You know, you don't want to break your remotes, because then your parents are gonna be pissed at you, right? You gotta toss it in like the pillow or something. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's probably what LOS is thinking right now as well, as Bank has been a very straightforward affair for them. I mean, they have been on top of their game, especially for Loban and Dash, as they've been a thorn in the side of Nip time and time again thus far.
Yep, 4-2 already guaranteed, even if we see NIP be victorious for a second time here. Actually, as I'm looking at this now, I'm realizing that los+one have made the adjustment. They do not go for the second open area hold. That's going to be a teller's play. So 5-1 maybe alive and well here if los+one are able to work this first floor hold a little bit better. Open area just did not pan out for them. NIP was able to separate the kind of more aggressive positions los+one were trying to play from in the early round and then whittle it down from there. The usual process they've been trying to close out here just hasn't been working as well as they would have liked for the other two sites that we've seen los+one play into so far here. So los+one looking, of course, to lock in a detrimental scoreline. We are going to see Psycho now move forward, completes the theft of at least that first camera, tries to go for another one, but there is a hot pursuit going on for that drone. So they are going to be able to catch it this time and knock out the first of those two Bravo drones.
Still a threat on the board, though. See it applied now. Have a drone rolling in. See what they can potentially steal. Cameraman has been getting away with this for this entire game. I don't know if you've noticed, this yokai has constantly been up and down this same drone hold.
Cost him his life on the first round, to be fair, but...
It did. But I mean, it is also so beneficial for them. I mean, even if they don't see anybody up there, that's cool because you know nobody's up there, right? So they have to be somewhere else. It's fantastic for Los at the current moment, especially with the other yokai across inside of Pillar. So a really strong setup for Los, and we'll see if Cameraman can try and help them a little bit further as Nip is taking control of the top floor and is looking to break up a few floorboards.
No luck for Psycho, unfortunately, on those drones as he's going to attempt to steal away one of the Banshees. I think that was still the first charge on that drone, too. It is going to get counted out completely. So he's really only able to get like 1 or 2 pieces of utility overall from both of his drones. Maybe 1 or 2 more that we just didn't catch on camera, but not the most effective play that he would have liked to see. Still down to over a minute to play out, however, and NIP have already taken full top control, so moving along schedule, but quite a bit of utility setup from los+one still to be dealt with on the first floor as well, not to mention just these potential aggressive swings that we're going to see Cameraman go for. Cameraman misreads the position from Wizard, though, or at least just doesn't catch him, so he gets away with his first dash for free. Another one now punished too. Cool it off here, los+one. Okay, maybe not so much as yet. Dots still hiding behind the teller's desk itself, goes completely unnoticed. Thankfully, Psycho is there for an instant exchange on the drop down from up top to Maya and Dash are what remain, and they're still not cooling it off. Dash rushing his way up through the main stairs, catches a counter onto Muzi, brings it down to a 2v3 and is still maintaining main stairs pressure. He can swing around here with the silent step that he's now going to trigger, outpacing the flank that's being worked against him by that sledge too. There's a real problem cooking up here for Nip. They're going to have to try and catch Dash, but they haven't done so, but pressure is also building on Maya at the same time. Dash strikes, knocks a player down, more than likely won't be retrievable, but it does leave Maya alone now. And no, Maya immediately cut off by Pino as well. Great control of the situation from NIP as they do indeed capture that second round.
A convincing round there from Ninjas in Pyjamas, as they're able to finally get something going up against los+one. But I mean, Maya, what a round, is almost able to get it over on Nip, especially with that position that we saw inside of the office, able to at least out-position them, just not find the kills necessary as the flank finally came through for Ninjas in Pyjamas. But now Nip with a different set of problems is, well, it's now their house and they're set out to defend it. Castle will be on the board unlike our last game, and Nip are immediately going to, on the mantle, bring him in, try and set up a couple of these around the main hallways, especially here for E2. No panels going down on the far end, though, which is a little surprising for me. That's usually what you end up seeing there for the elevator hallway, just to make sure nobody can come in from lone. But I digress. We'll see if Lost try and take things in from the lobby area, even to begin with.
Muzi should be able to quickly snipe away a drone right there, because he hasn't done it already for that one. Just pass being placed up on top, so a good find from him. Now, it's time to see, is los+one's strength on the attacking side of Bank going to be just as prominent as we saw their defensive sites be? Everything except for the first floor holds, of course, going into their favor. And NIP really having to work for that final round as well, but indeed doing the good work to finally put themselves on the right foot forward and at least give themselves a much more workable 2-4 scoreline versus the potential 1-5 that we were looking like we may have gotten there. You may have already noticed it, but we've got the blitz play. Not only that, the OSA shields are going to be in the mix as well. So this will be interesting, as it's a very weird combination of what could be very fast and potentially very slow play if it doesn't work out. But obviously, since we have the blitz, the fast option is what will be taken. Pino quickly forced back into a corner. He knows there's going to be pressure from Dirt, but Psycho actually comes in to help out here to get that first kill in against the member of LOS. Loban also falls to Psycho a moment later, so it's a good thing he was positioned on the inside of security as he makes up for the loss of Pino quite nicely. Still going to be reeling a little bit, though, as that's all 3 of the toxic babes going away in the first minute of the round. Will not have that additional 30 seconds of delay utility when it comes to that pivotal final push from los+one.
Yeah, Nip have a heck of a sixth sense right now for what the situation is exactly building up to be, and they nip it in the bud, man. They get ahead of this train way before it gets rolling, so I mean, well done from them, and especially from Psycho to know that as soon as that blitz starts pushing down blue, his friend's probably going to need some help over inside a server, right? So able to assist with that and make it not nearly as hard of a situation for them to try and deal with on down the line. So Dash and rest of LOS now trying their way in towards the site. Some frag grenades out from Maya. 4 and 4 right now. Dash really the star of the show along with Lobbin. Looks like we have some damage coming off on towards Dash, but nothing really else to speak about. He's going to try and hold on to that and see if he can continue to hold on to the cross, but he's going to overcommit. And speaking of overcommitment, Cameraman, he tries to walk his way in, but just too much utility to hold them at bay as Ninjas and Pyjamas quickly hurtling towards the 3rd round.
los+one having to use all their utility to try and open up the pathway from garage there as that castle barricade was blocking vision to their garage push. Ultimately, for nothing to come from that one, though. So Maya reeling a bit from the wastage, not necessarily wastage, but ineffective usage of that utility. And the 2 remaining members of the attack trying to figure out a way to make this work, but Maya inches just a little bit too close to security yet again. Gets caught out by the preset angle from Cons. Cameraman, of course, now being revealed with the shots he sends out there, just trying to make sure there's no one lurking inside of open area. And with a 1v4 in 15 seconds, it's not really realistic for him to do anything at all here. Maybe a kill or 2 to pad the stats, but that's basically it. So just kind of playing out the time to the best of his own capabilities. Muzi eventually cuts him off, though. So that's NIP giving us a defiant stance for their own first round. Just 1 away from the tie point now at 4-all.
It is happening. You know what we call this? We call this the demo curse. That's what we call it. He said los+one and 2-0, right? It's all his fault.
To be fair, the stats made it look that way. I didn't entirely disagree with that take. It's just maybe it's a little too early for this Cameraman.
Yeah, but do stats play the game? That's the real question. No,
I mean,
no, they don't.
Technically, they're in the game, so yes. That would be my interpretation of that question.
Damn it, you've got me there, John.
They're not playing the game. They are the game, to some extent. So
it's any given Sunday, John. All right, it's any given Sunday, and that's what Nip's mentality is here today. Yeah, I mean, it counts for Nip. It's any given day of the week that they're playing the video game. There you go. That's what I have to say about that. But I can definitely tell you this, Psycho, Wizard, and Muzi, but specifically Wizard, the player that's turning up the most for me currently. Because Ninjas and Pyjamas, and specifically Wizard, that was one of the players that has been the most punished in recent history with his play here for Nip, and definitely saw that at the most recent major. So nice to see him kind of having a more high-flying stat line and definitely getting down and dirty up against los+one right now.
It's going to be the Track Stingers flood strategy coming out from los+one now, as they'll try to prevent any aggressive swings into the 2nd floor site whatsoever by positioning those Track Stingers that Dash brings to the table on all of those rotation points, hopefully allowing for them to kind of stabilize their post-plant setup, and then that will allow NIP back in, as they'll by that point dealt with that utility and be able to appropriately swing back. So here's hoping that los+one will have their position set up by that point. That's also hoping that los+one can get into a position to properly deploy all of those Track Stingers, which sometimes can be the issue, as we've already seen here in the previous round that's been played out there by NIP. So drones working their way forward at the moment. los+one is trying to see what can be detected. More importantly, trying to see what they can set those Rotero drones up to find out on the inside of stock in some of these initial areas that los+one are going to try and take control of. You can see as well, it's a big buildup of players right by the repelled angle, so that may indicate the fact that they're at least wanting to try and play this quickly. Although Cameraman not having the best of times destabilizing the janitor setup right now. He's 0 for 2 on making those Rotero drones hit properly.
Well, Wizard setting up for the long shot here from Checkers. all the way in towards the office. Dots going to get the plant going, lobbing, trying to get something going for himself, but a lot of damage coming off around his shield. Dots will be dedicated to the plant. Maya will continue to hold down the window, and this plant will go through, but Cons with a big play and a big revive onto Psycho. Dots now with an adjustment for himself. Knows there's got to be some inside the closet. He'll get one. Can't follow up on the other, but he can on the conference player. No bullets inside of that AK anymore, and he's now down, but Cons has an opportunity inside of this 1 versus 2. It's going to be so very difficult, especially with these track stingers. He's already taken a tad bit of damage, and these angles are going to be so difficult to try and fight against. He's going to have to try and hop out. He'll go for it. He gets one, but Maya ready on the other end of things on rappel. Very well done here from los+one, as I'll be able to at least push this further on down the line.
Yeah, not much of a hope left for that last player trying to clutch things out, unfortunately. 2 different players on repelled angles that he really can't force them to peek at the end of the day, especially with the position of the bomb plant. So just wasn't going to happen, so just sent it out the window. Can't fault him for that in any sense of the word. los+one with a very convincing take, though, skipping all the shenanigans with clearing out Janitor for the most part. Kind of having Cameraman as a potential distraction, although it may have not been intended to work that way. It kind of worked that way, where the constant denials of the Rotero drones was making NIP pay extra close attention to the square push, when in reality, it was just a brute force because of the track stingers in through the repelled angle. los+one make that work beautifully, steal away not even the entire area surrounding like Janitor as well as Meeting. They really only take the site itself, and that's enough with the bonus of the repelled angles, of course, that they have established to overwatch that plant, to get it down onto the ground and then just bully out the remaining presence from NIP.
los+one now looking to try and quickly link these rounds together. This is looking like it could be a pretty well formulated strat here. Love the Osa pickup, got the Lion and Zero working their way in as well. As you see Maya coming through with the Flores and those Rotero drones to clean out some of these more fortified positions. Open is going to be the initial character to get into the building, as it'll be Ace through Dirt Tunnel here to start things off, and Dots in the rest of the game. And to see what they can get going inside of open area as well as Printer. Nice little camera selection there as well from Dots, as you can actually flip that through the floor, look inside of Printer later on down the line too. So a little creative cam there for himself to make sure that they can try and clear up the mute jammer, allowing those drones in.
Trying to get another one on the inside of Stock to start the push from that direction. los+one almost required to establish top-down presence here in order to make the average take on this site work. We have seen teams skip it in the past. Just forcing the issue, working their way in through Printer, as well as the inside of Electrical. That's at least going to be part of the strat now. As you can see the OSHA shield going down that very same entryway we mentioned, but the counters for that on an NIP side are going to be pretty strong. Muzi playing on the inside of Archives, for instance, does have a direct way to suss out some of the openings going on. Speaking of which, that breach does get popped. Muzi had a chance to shoot it away, but decided not to, and is going to allow them to establish those angles. los+one in the meanwhile here, still pretty tepid about actually pulling the trigger on the execute, but they are very, very close. Don't get it wrong. They do have, like we said before, all those breaches have been made. It's just these kind of sketchy positions surrounding their square hold, like Pino, and of course the player down in Archives as well, that are probably holding back the rest of los+one from really trying to commit themselves to this right now. And it's the right choice. It's just, okay, what's the solution? How do you bully these players out? And it doesn't really seem like they have too good of an answer. So Cons, in fact, now takes command of the situation. He swings out from those breaches, knocks out at least one member of this team. NIP are getting aggressive now that they have the kill advantage. They can afford to lose a player or two here because of that one, but that's not going to go down. Wizard knocks out a second one outright and brings us down to a 5v3. Time is getting low for los+one as well. What do they do here? Like I said before, it's all under their decision making, and they are just not able to come up with a plan quickly enough. So NIP is going to continue to force them back because of that.
Ninjas in Pyjamas are playing on the absolute limit at the current moment, and it's working so very well for them. Playing up to all of the doors, making sure that they can't push in any real way that they want to, but Maya might have the opportunity of a lifetime here, but Cons will quickly shut it down, dispatched by the M590. Cameraman with a creative position there as he'll prone things out. A nice shot from Dash and a potential plant building up for los+one, but as soon as I say that, Ninjas in Pyjamas will fell them both, and Nip looking to make an opportunity out of Bank. This could be a 2-0 here to continue on this reign of terror.
Yeah, unfortunately for los+one in that round specifically, that round was really lost from the very first kill. Just still trying to force the issue into the same initial strategy, and that just wasn't going to work with the player deficit they had. Unfortunately, I think time was realistically starting to get a little bit too low for them to even go for a major adjustment and try to put pressure on a different part of the map. So just a really tough scenario for los+one to try to work their way out of, as Nip gave them absolutely zero respect in that round and just continued to snap those jaws for the defensive aggression further and further shut the moment they were given the opportunity to do so. Props to Nip, though, once again, for playing the situation so close to the chest and so perfectly off of those very tense positions that they were playing from.
los+one quickly have to course correct here. These Ninjas in Pyjamas are really on their trail, hunting them down and looking to pass them by. See if we can get them in the upcoming corners. It's round 10 right around the bend. All this extended strategy here from Nip, John. We haven't seen a real roam here in Bank, but a lot of teams been discussing in the recent major, as well as some of the recent content we've seen from a lot of them, that Bank has had some adjustments with some of the half roams and stuff that we've seen coming out, and been a lot of fantastic play that we've seen, stem from that. So see if Ninjas in Pyjamas can imbue any of that into their own game plan for this one, as Maya and Los will get down to it. They get the Twitch drones in here. Nice position, at least initially. Usually something that ends up getting checked out, but it'll be a good find instead for Maya, as they'll get rid of the Electro Claw and potentially a lot more utility. I mean, there's plenty of things at their disposal down there, so we'll see what they can get on down the line.
Dash going to confidently move forward with the Osa shield supporting his push. Not a whole lot Khans can do about it, so he's just keeping an eye out for the secondary player to move forward here. Time Nitro Cell nearly perfectly, but at the same time, the movement from Dash is a little hard to get out of the way of. He does land a pretty high damaging shot into the foot of Dash, though, which knocks out quite a bit of his HP. And elsewhere on the map, we're going to see Psycho take control of the opening kill. Dash is ultimately able to subvert the expectations here, though, and turn his own fight around, but much to the displeasure of los+one, they are also going to lose that advantage. A moment later, Muzi just barely gets away with the second frag. As you can see, he's reeling from that one down to only about 5 or 10 HP, so he will have to calm himself down. This is also a very advanced position for Dots, but he's not necessarily going to be able to work it into anything. I may have seen a piece of wood or two fall down that could have given an indication over to the defense that he is indeed playing here, but some of that is on the client side, so it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of that would actually work. Dots tries to use the Twitch drone as a distraction to play downstairs. It does not work in any sense of the word. Nip, read it like a book. And now the case is down. Maya is going to try to re-entry in the best position to take back that case, but hasn't even caught the rotation out from the Archives vault. Psycho shuts it down, and it's another round from NIP as they complete the comeback now and start to take a bit of a lead for themselves, or at least attempt to on this next round or two.
Yeah, we're looking for the los+one timeout after that. That's what we're looking for here. I don't think you let this get too much farther down the line before it's just problematic, and I don't think it's a problem that they can really solve right now. Cameraman, he's been with the team for a month. This is their first official match together. This is best of 3 up against Nip. And Nip, due to that mileage as a squad, looking to be just a little bit of a shinier stone here, even though Bank not exactly beneficial for them the last time that they faced off.
All right, well, dead heat now. los+one quite literally up against the wall to some extent. They are facing potential elimination. There's no lower bracket here in the Gamers Without Borders tournament this year, ladies and gentlemen. So one and done is all los+one is going to have in terms of their chances to get revenge against NIP. For those, once again, who did not hear us talk about this at the beginning of the series, NIP and los+one recently played each other in the last chance qualifiers for this region going into the most recent major that finished about a week ago. NIP just barely beat out los+one for that slot in a 2-1 series ultimately. And now Nip about to potentially upset los+one's chances to go to yet another big LAN event by shutting them down here. But los+one, with the performance they've been giving us here, should still be able to have some fight in them to maybe push us just that little bit further onto Villa for map number 3. So let's see, as they had still a pretty convincing first half, if they can keep that momentum rolling in their own favor and potentially give us 2 more rounds themselves.
Opens worked his way into open area. Drone spun up for Los as well. Too much activity across the board, though. Just trying to assess the situation and see exactly how they want to try and aggress from that. Mostly starting over on the square side, minus what Loban's position is built up to be. Although, really no activity. Ninjas in pajamas, mostly strung along the site, trying to hold the odds and ends of the stairwells and some of the windows you can break into on this top floor. Speaking of those windows, Dash will end up holding onto those in kind. He's looking to see if he can get some deeper crosses for the site once the execute starts to work its way in. Loban more than likely avoiding that camera there from Psycho. So he wasn't able to get that off in time. This frag grenade not going to land out as the Nip player will not move at the top of main. Nothing coming to Los just yet. It looks like Nip want to make this as difficult as humanly possible on Los's offense. They're going to have to fight for every single gritty detail.
Los not able to immediately isolate where their best first attempt is going to come from either. Just sneaking cameraman into the corner of top square and setting up an OSA shield so that no one can sneak up on him and knock him down. Since he's not being supported that well, Dash is a bit preoccupied with the insight duties, on top of potentially having to hop on the drone every once in a while there too. Loban, though, gets us started well for los+one as he lands a singing nade against Amuzi to eliminate the castle, I believe, playing a little bit closer to Jay or Stock over on that side. As a result, that'll open up a few more pathways. We can see Khan's trying to make a bit of a play on his own, misses the opportunity, but it's all right. Wizard has got control of the situation alongside Psycho, and now Khan striking true here. Pino also trying to take out the repelled player. That attempt will fail, and Khan's is currently down. Wizard, though, knocks out the only other member up and rolling from los+one, and although Dash will get a nice parting kill, he is still quickly smited as well on a trade via NIP, and that puts NIP up onto map point here. Map point as well, but just like we saw on the first map, only one opportunity for the leading team to shut it down here. We could very easily see a trade from los+one and take us into overtime for the second map in a row.
I think there's a really strong case for that, especially with Nip having to go to staff room open area. We haven't seen a team be too successful with that site just yet, so excited to see what Nip can do with this. Their strategy is definitely quite a bit of delay, but what it's mostly punishing is the drone game. You see a lot of that here. The Mute, the Mozzie, the Solus all coming out just to make sure they limit the info that is streamed towards los+one. And los+one having a creative game plan of their own as of right now. Looks like they had a little bit of a prediction coming into this round that this was more than likely going to be the site, as well there's really only two, and this one is definitely better than going to Archive, isn't it? So well, it looks like we're going to have the fuse come out from Maya. They're more than likely going to try and play this for the top floor, but now this begs the question, can Los find that initial pick that escaped them in the last round?
That was the initial point that I was going to bring up as well. Is that although the fuse is great for the inside play, los+one never got to that point the last time.
Exactly. They got to get there, right?
NIP still had very strong hard points, both on the inside of, I believe it was CEO upstairs, as well as Archives on the first floor that never got properly dealt with by los+one. And if that's going to remain an issue, then this fuse utility may never really see the light of day. Thankfully, he's got a pretty good gun to back it up, and he's also secondary hard reach. So there's other things that Maya can do here, potentially. But if the goal is to use that utility on the top down for open area, there's a possibility we may never see that come to light. But let's hold our breath, of course, and wait and see if los+one can get to that.
I was going to say, I don't think Maya fought too much about playing Fuse. They were like, hey, you want an AK-12? And he was like, I mean, if you're gonna twist my arm. No. I mean, I guess. Why not? So we'll see if that does work out for them, though. Yeah, holding our breath baited for this round here. Looking to see what will happen. Definitely a slow rolling one, at least initially. This first minute used as reconnaissance for los+one's case. Loban attempting to move forward, and this might be the kill here. He's got the rotation, but I think they know he's here. He plays back in towards the concrete wall, and he's lost the plot, John. It's getting scary. It's up in the ether. It's a trade here between the two, but Maya is going to keep him ahead of things. They're going to springboard off of this down into a 4 versus 2. Pino's stuck upstairs. Pino's dead to Maya on the rotation. It's up to Muzi now to try and hold on to this. That logic bomb ringing in his back pocket. He's completely off the reservation as well. Tries to swing back. He has to take these fights, John. He has to be confident. Gets one. Knows there has to be another one lurking. Cameraman stuck to the plant here, at least for now. He's going to double back and hope they think that he moves over for Kitchen. Looking for that deep player. He finds one. Cameraman doesn't even check. They think he's rotated bottom square. He has an opportunity here. This will be a crazy round from Muzi. One for the ages, and it's in a charity tournament. He's getting in here, the stun out, he doubles back. Maya plays it perfectly around the cubicles, and we're guaranteed overtime again. Yeah, 7-0 the last time, but they're both here to play for this one.
Maya versus Muzi, the battle for the ages right there, but Maya just barely squeaks it out at the end. Muzi, unfortunately, is overplaying his position that little bit. Let's talk more about Maya, though. Maya just absolutely bullying out the entire setup from NIP upstairs. What has usually been a completely synchronized level of play from NIP in those extended positions where they're immediately able to calm off each other and trade those early openers very easily, finally falls to pieces here on round 12, just when they needed it to stay together as well. And Maya's allowed to go absolutely crazy, picking up 2, if not 3 kills on that upstairs clear and making the rest of the round at least a little bit easier, obviously, with that clutch attempt still coming in from NIP.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, good looks all around, right? That was just a fantastic round from everybody. So we'll see if that continues on in OT. You really don't want to see the script switch up now, as the show was just getting good. We got 3 rounds here to see if Ninjas in Pyjamas can pull the wool over the eyes of los+one, bring them into the flock in a nice 2-0. Ninjas in Pyjamas have the defensive end again, and they've looked so dang good so far when they are playing on the defense. It's going to be up to los+one. This truly is the pressure test to see what los+one are capable of here, as Cameraman has just worked his way into this lineup.
All right, like I said, Cameraman potentially starting a new dawn inside of the Latin American region for los+one. Qualifying for Gamers 8, even just making it to the Gamers Without Borders Grand Final tomorrow is going to be a nice first step forward, as of course they'll be priming, I believe, for a matchup against Team Liquid. If that game has gone the way I believed it would have gone, we'll get official updates on that with the analysis desk, of course, after this game has concluded, but more than likely going to end up being either team's opponent going into tomorrow. And los+one will really have an opportunity to make their mark, but it's going to be NIP to strike first, at least in this round. Muzi getting a very close battle going his way to knock out Maya, who obviously we saw what Maya, just on their lonesome, was able to do at the beginning of the last round. So losing him early on here is not going to be the greatest start to things for los+one.
Well, John, if there's one thing that we know about the Copenhagen Major is that it made everybody a believer in Blitz. Now, here's the thing. I didn't see a lot of these Blitz games, I'll be real with you. So, ever since we started casting again, all these Blitz rounds, they've been absolutely trash. So, I really need Loben to make me a believer here. I need some Copenhagen Blitz play out of Loben in the moment right now. And here it is, the aggressive play. He gets one, he takes down Psycho, the mainstay fragger for Ninjas in Pyjamas, the top player from Ninjas in Pyjamas at the Copenhagen Major, now dead and gone. los+one with an opportunity as they'll bust through this castle barricade. A nitro cell out. Very well played. They knew that sound key was more than likely the telltale sign that a nitro was on the express train there.
So Loben has answered Stokes' call now, giving us at least a little bit of action on the Blitz play. We'll see what else he's able to deploy towards. You saw it, he's ready to go down the base.
He's on it.
He's like, just tell me when to go, guys. Hold me back, as Loben is ready to frag out right now. We'll see when they finally unleash him if he can put together another pick or 2 here, or at least set his teammates up for one, as that is the ultimate goal of the Blitz here, is not for the Blitz itself to find a massive amount of frags, but to just act as a raw chaos for his teammates to then wrap themselves around and try to pick up a few kills themselves. Smoked Up works their way in, so here comes the play into the back of Gold Vault. Loben will insert himself. Immediate counter to the pressure coming in from the gold area itself. He's going to try to get right up in his face. Oh no, the melee comes out, but the blind also goes through on the shield. So Loben gets kill number 2 on the Blitz. Dots also finds one on the inside, but it's Loben to win another 1v1 on the ADS for the pistol with the shield to close it down instead, as los+one take the opening round of overtime and have the initial chance to close this game down and take us to Villa.
And there you have it. I've been christened in the Church of Blitz. It works out. What a play from Lobbin, as he really is the star of the show. Not just a flash in the pan, but something that burned on into the night. What a round from him. What a round from los+one, as they take an offense that they desperately needed. Now, Ninjas in Pyjamas have to try and do the exact same thing on the exact same site.
See, now you guys understand why Monty's being banned out so often, because you think this is annoying with Blitz. When do you see with Monty? Our
Imagine if you can't shoot him.
yeah, our APAC players were doing that the other day. And one of them got like a triple kill, if I remember correctly, in one of the rounds in like Oregon or something like that. So I think that was Cyclops that managed to put that together. But either way, focusing back up on this region, of course, NIP versus los+one. los+one bringing it back under their own control, struggling a bit at the start of the second half. Initially took a 4-2 lead at the start of this game, but then fell back, obviously, to the 6-6 scoreline at halftime, and taken the initial round, and now having the defensive start for round 14, they are looking nice and primed to potentially trigger that third map after it looked for a moment like NIP were ultimately going to dominate in the second half. No longer the case, obviously, as both teams are alive yet again.
Ninjas in Pyjamas have been in this situation before, though. You can say the same for Cameraman and a decent amount of the los+one players. I'm going to be cool as a cucumber. Nobody's stressing about this. Just another day in the office. We'll see if Ninjas in Pyjamas can try and get the ball rolling here. Psycho going to be coming in decently late, waiting for some camera work. Cameraman actively playing the angle, and that's going to be the big pick here. He knew the rotation had to be coming through. He knew someone had to try and come for the garage plate. Psycho answers the call. Will be met by bullets from the MP5.
It's very well-warranted revenge there, too. For those that remember, Cameraman did get caught on the drones back in round number 1 against that very same push. So finally, he's able to give the members of NIP their own just desserts for trying to pull that move on him a second time. This Echo drone will be found out, but it'll get the nice little fadeaway stun. Not that that's really going to contribute to a whole lot. Pino, in the meanwhile, though, did find a trade onto Dash, catching him probably trying to rotate out from like Archives or something, back down through the stairs or potentially into that open area hatch. Just a mistimed rotate, the one that NIP will obviously take full advantage of. los+one also rotating the rest of their extended players back to the site because of that loss. They no longer want to really take the risk on it, since it is still going to be an even fight in the site itself. So now that focuses all the pressure from NIP onto that site. That's all that's really left to play for across the map here, and quite a bit of pressure still going to be deployed to the inside of security here, or rather CCTV in the Archives area, or server just sitting directly outside of that one. So that could cause some additional serious delay problems for NIP. However, no, los+one don't want to contend with the open hatch. They're going to fall right back and respect the opening from NIP.
The fact that NIP have been able to find this equalizer in the likes of Dash is such a huge thing for them going into this last minute. Still have some frag grenades, another Goyo here. Remember, these last for 20 seconds, so a lot of delays still to be had from NIP, but, or rather, los+one, but manageable for NIP. That was the main point there. Cameraman, I don't know how many more yokais he still has. I believe he just has this one. I don't exactly know what the other one is at the current moment, but the key factor is Ninjas in Pyjamas are getting themselves wrapped around this site. They've got the hatch play in here. They've got the drone set up for Psycho to watch the flank. It all comes down to this. 20 seconds remaining and a drop waiting in the wings. Dots with the cross here with the yokai wielding. Cameraman in the wings as well. Inside of Garage, the drop comes in. Muzi with a big kill. Cameraman with one of his own on Pino. Cons has to try and go for it. He's got the case in hand. They push deep for Office. He's dead from behind. There's one inside of Red, and Los get it done in OT. 8-6, and it's going to require all 3 maps here in our semifinal.
It's the smoke player, or the mute player, didn't actually get to see which one it was, hiding in the wings that goes unnoticed on the drop. That's always the big issue with those last moment executes that NIP are so fond of. Even looking back towards map number 1 as well, we saw quite a bit of it there. Miss 1 or 2 little details like that mute, or obviously smoke player playing into the corner there, and that is it. That player is going to be allowed to go off, as we saw, picks up like 3 kills in the final round right there and seals the deal on a response map from los+one, and that indeed locks in our third third and final map on Villa, which we're going to be going to in quite a few minutes. Either way, once again, though, quite the matchup between these two teams, as it is very close to the chest, going all the way to the bitter end. We nearly needed the full 15 rounds yet again. But anyway, folks, like we said before, map 3 is coming up right around the corner. We got a short break before we get to that, and we'll be back with your analysis as well to prep you guys for the third and final map of this series. See you in just a few.
Every day, it feels like there is a new crisis. Families displaced by violent earthquakes and wars. Warm hearts sleeping under cold blankets of stars. Lives destroyed and washed away. Families fleeing into the unknown. But look closer. See the hope everywhere. See the ones running towards disasters to help. Compassion exists all around the world. Kindness is healing wounds, bringing hope for a brighter tomorrow. Look closer and see the many families like Layla's who've lived through unimaginable hardships and yet haven't given up. Please don't give up on those forced to flee. Donate now.
Did you know that 80% of a human's brain is developed by age 3? That's such a narrow period of time which will have lifelong consequences. Not only on one child, but whole societies, the whole world. That's why we chose UNICEF at Gamers Without Borders, because they are there for children every step of the way. From early childhood until they enjoy their rights to health, education, protection, and more to grow up and thrive. Choosing UNICEF is the right thing and the smart thing to do. And you can join us.
Progress is a race that has no end. After every finish line, another challenge awaits. How can we continue to push innovation in a sport at the forefront of technology? This is how. Discover how Aramco and the Aston Martin Formula One team aim to meet Formula One's sustainable fuel targets. Aramco, powered by How.
We're going the distance here at Gamers Without Borders. One apiece in this best-of-3 semi-final. los+one continue their dominance on Bank, only just, but turning the tides when they need to. A great display of mental strength, right, Anne?
Exactly, yes. This is the mental strength you were talking about, you know, grabbing those rounds or those victories when they are so close to you. And when los+one were presented that one opportunity to grab this win and to pull this map towards them, they did it. That's what we wanted from them. And if you think about the very beginning of this map, right, Maya had that huge clutch. If it weren't for that huge clutch, the map would have probably gone in towards the favor of NIP. They had huge momentum on their own defense as well. We started that with los+one on their own defenses. There were rounds where, for example, Dash was buying his team so much time upstairs with a massive roam. We had Cameraman on the Echo consistently, giving his team so much information to play off of with. And NIP on their attack, they were so slow. In their defense, they played into that as well by selling out so much time, and NIP countered that really well by doing these kind of funky attacks where they rappel into the CEO windows, get the plan down, have all this funky utility being brought out. And indeed, as we mentioned, the first time they have this opportunity presented to them, they grab it and they take the map.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The momentum killer Maya on that opening round, it was absolutely crucial. But honestly, you know, similar play style in map 2, right, Demo? I think that los+one seemed to anticipate that slow roll from NIP eventually because it becomes a little bit predictable, like, you know, over a certain amount of time.
Yeah, very similar to what we had in the first map. You kind of have NIP who are very, very slow. Sometimes, you know, the clock is against them. That's kind of their worst enemy. Just doesn't matter who they're against, that's always going to be their biggest enemy. And again, you look at a team like los+one, quick, blitz is being played, you know, they're not afraid to really push the boot out.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with like the fast plays there being in the favor of los+one, especially on that map on Bank. They're very comfortable there as well. They were 5-3 up again, and then a 6-5 turnaround happened. And my head was in my hands. I was like, not again, this cannot happen.
Exactly, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But then something I'm happy to see on the side of NIP, though, is Psycho and Wizard, they definitely had a better game than they did have in that first map, but it just wasn't enough. I was happy to see that if you look at the scoreboard here as well, los+one were getting way more active on those entry engagements. They weren't always victorious, but they significantly had more positive entry engagements than they had on the previous map. And also, their entry conversion was a lot better, because 80% of the rounds that they got the entry, they actually managed to win that round, and they got so many more entries, which definitely helped them to get to that entry conversion as well.
We talk about the occasion sometimes being a bit overwhelming for less experienced players, but Demo, it seems like los+one, they kind of rose to the occasion for this one, and now they're in a very, very good position going into the final map.
Again, it's all about momentum for me. I think a team like los+one, where they're young, they're hungry, they want to get to more events, they want to build up that portfolio. this is what they need to win. These are the kind of games that really test your mettle. Obviously, it's not done yet because they have to go in a best of 5 tomorrow. And that is up against Team Liquid. We know that whoever wins this is up against the runners-up from a most recent major. So it's not going to be an easy battle, no matter which way you look at it. But los+one, just keep it going. Keep it going and get yourself into that grand final.
Keep trucking. We've got our head-to-head of our 2 best players from that round as well, and you can break down some of these stats as well because, once again, it went to overtime. These teams are just so equally matched at this point.
Exactly, yeah. Muzi showing up a consistent performance with first map going into the second map, but then if you look, for example, at the cost difference, this one is leaning way more in the favor of Dash. And Dash had some huge performances in that last map. He was very active on the entry engagements, being really successful with that. But also, as I mentioned, for example, in round 4, where he is all the way on the top floor when the site is all the way downstairs, and he buys his team so much time because NIP, right, they started the play style of Virtus Pro. They will be a slow team. They were very slow on this attack. And then if with a minute to go, Dash is somehow on the top floor shooting down one of your team members, that is an issue that you need to fix immediately. And you have to shift your focus. And this way he buys his team so much time and eventually the round win too.
Well, our final map of this series is going to be Villa. Demo, we're going to be getting our map predictions wrong maybe again. We keep getting it keeps happening here on at the in the virtual studio. I feel like we're jinxing left and right. Can you say with any kind of confidence what you think is going to happen in this final map?
I mean, Villa's not a good map for... I don't think it favors any team. So we are really in, you know, just... It is what it is. Whatever happens. That's the kind of territory we're in. But I always think, Ollie will agree with me, because Ollie's got me saying this now. Whatever team wins the second map, wins the third map.
There you go. You know what? I was literally about to say that. And do you agree? Do you feel like now los+one, the advantage is in their hands? You feel like it's their map to lose?
Yeah, I feel like for los+one, they've got 2 very positive things going their way. A being during the last matchup when these 2 teams faced against each other, this was the only map that los+one was able to win against NIP. So, you know, they have this mental, I guess, fortitude on that map. And then also, if you look at the attacking stats or attacking win rates of NIP, this is by far their worst attacking win rate. And on Villa, you'd ideally like to get a few attacking rounds in the back, because when you get on your own defenses, you have this nice little buffer. So 2 positive things very much going in the way of los+one.
Looking back into the history of these 2 teams as they've gone up against each other in the past, one thing that we can touch on very, very kind of minimally, I will say, is that los+one did in fact beat NIP at the end of last year in the 6th Invitational qualifier, right? They lost the 7-3 on border. They came out of the lower bracket and they won in the final. It went the distance. los+one have done it before. They can do it again. So I love the idea of this becoming like a grudge match forming, but, you know, Anne, what are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, even if you look at about what they said in the interview, right? If we heard Loban say like, oh, you know, we've had some issues closing out maps, we have this new experience coming in, we have cameraman or a new agile or a new addition to the team. And they also mentioned like, oh, we probably should have won that map or that game against NIP last time. So there definitely is some grudge. And hopefully for them, it translates into so much motivation to absolutely storm on that final map.
Talk about qualifying as well for, you know, Gamers 8 later in the year. Demo, like, we have all these external factors when we go to like LAN tournaments, okay? But right now, all of our players are getting to kind of compete from the comfort of their own home. They don't have any of these external factors. They don't have the crowd, the hot lights, the cameras, all that kind of stuff. Do we tend to see players thrive in this in competitive Siege? Or do you feel like this is just like a really nice and comfortable way to qualify for a huge tournament and make a lot of money for charity along the way?
Yeah, of course. I think teams are obviously, you're in a different environment at a LAN event, different PC, different monitor, you know, where you are, climate, time zone, so many things to take into consideration. The good thing is for both these teams is that they both have LAN experience. If they end up winning this game, moving on to Liquid, beat BAM, they've been to LANs before, so as they go into that main event in July, it's not going to be like they've never been here before, are they going to crumble? You know, we've seen it happen. They can do pretty good on events.
We keep talking about NIP's like slow pace coming into this one. This might be their downfall as well. Do you feel like they're the kind of team that can now adapt on the fly? Maybe they're going to increase the pace. Maybe they're going to change a few things up. And what do you think NIP need to change coming into map 3 to ensure that they close this one out?
Ooh, I think if they were a team to pick up the pace, I'm not so sure if I can see that happening, considering it's been quite of a trend over these past 2 maps. But if you compare it to los+one, what we've seen from them, which we I think haven't really seen from NIP so far, is those pocket strats or the funky rounds where, as on the previous map, los+one, they get control of all the windows, they get so much information, they say, okay, right, we're taking CEO, we're getting the plan down, we've got all the utility to keep us covered, and NIP haven't really been making those rush plays or pocket strats, so if they want to switch up the pace, that is something that they can definitely do.
Okay, we're going to dive into a very quick break while we get all of our players to join the lobby. But when we get back, we will have your casters and we will have your final map of this semi-final in LATAM.
TSM.
SSG won the 2020 Invitational.
That was Space Stations? Oh, I'm so sorry, Troy.
The 2021 highest rated player, Grixer.
I believe it was it Grixer?
2022 was Finko.
God, I hope I was not on. Well, I did actually play a good amount of Yana back then. Shoot. I still want to say my most played operator was Thatcher.
In 2022, it was Legion.
Yeah, I wish I was a gunner, but I'm pretty sure I was playing Smoke at that time.
It was SSG versus TSM.
Oh. That was Dark Zero versus TSM.
B Canadian.
It's gotta be Geo.
B J9 now. Just go with the boy. Yeah.
Oh man, you had to put 2 mailboxes in there. It's gotta be one of those 2 guys. Jack is extremely clutch, but Diaz is Diaz. But Jack got farther, so I want to say J90.
Yeah, my main gun is the MPX. It's really good. It has a 1.5, so yeah, you can be really flex with it. And my second is the SMG 12. So on the MPX, I normally use Flash Rider, Vertical Grip, and 1.5. It's really good. On the SMG 12, I normally use just the hollow sight, Flash Rider, and also the vertical. Yeah. It really depends. Like there are some sites that's better for you can place a great shield. It really depends on it. Flex a lot. The best maps I can say maybe for Warden, it's Cafe. A lot of people like to play with Ing and some smoke, so yeah, you can counter it a lot. When you're playing Warden, sometimes you want to hide it, so you can maybe just, let's say, find a spot and hide until the end, because you don't want to spot it, because the other team can be like, oh, we won't do something because they have a Warden, and that's it. Most of the time it's really good, especially when the other team is executing their strategy, because they are going to smoke like maybe some pixel, and you can always counter it just by placing yourself in the middle of it and shooting. A trick that I haven't been using for a while, but you can like make a team play, let's say, sometimes when your teammate smokes, I'm saying like I smoke, right? So when he places his gadget and he opens the gas, sometimes like the attack can see a lot, and if you are a Warden, like maybe you can use it as an advantage, you know. When you're playing Warden, you always have to be aware what the other team is doing and where's the best place you can be, like that you will be most effective, you know. Yeah, like his gadget is Warden's gadget is normally used on the late round, so most of the time you don't have to be that aggressive because it's a really important operator. Yes, like there are a couple strategies that when people knows there's a Warden, they can maybe use a Thatcher and disable his glasses, so you have to be really aware of it. Biggest thing is, like as I said, when you're playing Warden, sometimes you won't use his ability on the early round, and you don't have to pick everything because sometimes it will be really useful and it probably will a lot your team on the late round, you know. I can't remember exactly like if it was like a quarterfinals, but it was against FaZe on the SI 2021. I made a 5K. And before the match, Moringa, that was one of my teammates, he said, on the first round, you're gonna make a 5K. And like, it was, after I made it, I like, get on, like, and I yelled to him, yeah. Like, it was really amazing.
Set of goggles, well, he is waiting patiently to absolutely tear them up.
Oh, at the moment the goggles will run out, he's going to be able to at least pick up one kill.
Over the side, hoping that baits the play round on the split, but it's Palu. In the meantime, and this huge bout of no man's land with the deployable camera offering cover, Palu just going to swip for a quad. He's going to go find the fifth, hopefully, as he hops over the side of Lumber. There it is. There's an ace.
It was the battle of the aces, wasn't it? I think, was it Astra that had a quad kill as well, or was I completely mistaken in that one?
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Gamers Without Borders Rainbow Six event. We're working our way through 4 different regions and 4 pretty big prize pools, of course, to find ourselves a winner from each region to pick the lion's share of that prize pool to donate to one of our 6 pre-selected charities, and of course, qualify to the main event at Gamers 8 coming up in just a few months. Moving into map number 3 now of one of our Latin American semifinals. We are going live with it as it's los+one up against NIP. It's been pushed to a 3rd and final map, and it's on Villa, so let's get ourselves into it to see which of these 2 teams will move on to the grand final best of 5 tomorrow against Team Liquid.
Yes, indeed. Let's get right into it here as Thatcher will get banned out from Ninjas in Pyjamas. los+one on the other end of things will be handling their offense and defensive ban right here, right now. And speaking of right here, right now, just getting off of bank where we had a heck of a game in between these two teams. los+one, though, finding themselves in overtime to take it 8-6. Ninjas and Pyjamas able to win in regulation when it came to Chalet. But past that, it's on down to our mainstay map here now as we get into Villa. It's going to be a zombie band out on the defensive end to wrap up los+one's ban phase here, and I'm liking what I'm seeing.
We'll see if there's any variation to that for the final ban coming in from NIP. More than likely not going to be the case, and we should, especially since it's Villa 2, stay within inside of the triangle of those commonly banned operators. But no, we'll drift outside of it just slightly, though, as Amira still has quite a bit of power to play out on this map on most sites. It makes perfect sense to ban her in, but that does mean that Valkyrie, as well as, of course, the Solus, are still going to be left in, and that'll present some problems, of course, to our attackers. We'll talk more about that when we get those selections locked in from NIP over the course of this half, but they will be voiding those two for at least the first round, taking a peek at their initial operator selections. It's an AVG hold for NIP, so they need to rely a little bit more on the mitigation and delay utility that you're going to see spread across that lineup.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
AVG will be our very first defense here from Ninjas and Pyjamas. los+one with some pretty interesting details being built up for themselves. Got the Bravo coming in here. Haven't seen that too much in between these two just yet. So hopefully some things in the wings to try and effectively steal away some utility. Not too much for them to really deal with. That could be too counterintuitive at the end of the day. So see if they can just try and get some mute jammers and things along those lines. It's going to be an extension here for Ninjas and Pyjamas, but one that we all know and love, as it'll be some panels up on the tri-wall, over in Statue, a few panels over on the Astro wall there for Trophy. So Nip will be worried about the entirety of this top floor, and we'll see what los+one wants to do about their clear.
los+one obviously moving slowly into things. They just spawn in. It's going to take some time, of course, before they're more in position to make any moves against NIP's pretty straightforward strat to hold on to things. It's here a very horizontal focused hold, only really trying to negate stairs pressure from the front main stairs and study area, as you would generally expect for the AVG hold. We'll see if Dots can make that entire setup just a little bit weaker, of course, with these Rotero drones. One being tempted to be shot at here, but he'll sneak it deep and deal with the map side deployable shield here, removing that potential play position from NIP if they get pushed into a corner later in the round. Speaking of which, Pino now going to find himself at a hole while he gets down. Still manages to take at least one player with him, although will be confirmed eventually by Loban. Still another kill also found by this defense, though. So los+one still down by a player, even with that trade against Pino considered.
Big time here for Dots now. She'll take down Wizard. Got the 3 versus 3. We'll get rid of the utility around main stairs as well. Both that out for his teammates. Loban as well as Cameraman. Still trying to find their mark for the round. Dots trying to assist with the piano player and is well struck from los+one as Ninjas and Pyjamas. Lone Soul downstairs is stuck between a rock and a hard place, and well, that's going to spell demise for him. It's going to be Psycho now here for Study. He's going to attempt to hold things over towards main stairs. Has a few bodies to worry about. Loban especially, as he'll be trying to clear things out from down low. So much time for los+one to process the site, and this is where Loban can make things so very easy for them, as they'll look to try and get a better info game going on the areas around the site, as well as clear out some of these mainstay pieces of utility.
Loban and the rest of los+one here starting to get low on time to make the execute work, but given the fact that they are still up by a player in a 3v2. The hesitance is pretty well noted here. Cons, especially with his aggressive position out by Trophy Connector, has already been realized by the members of los+one. However, it doesn't necessarily mean it's actionable. As we can see, Cons now ready for the challenge, takes out one player, has the possibility to get a second, and Psycho will ignite himself from the inside of the site too. With that kill found, Cons just dips. He doesn't want anything to do with this fight anymore, or does he? No, dashes back out one final time, but hold on, Loban skipped the step. He forgot not the case on the outside of the connector. Psycho has been given all the time necessary now to prep himself on the inside of Gunvault. 8 seconds left for losone to make this play hit. He's going to go right for the plant, but that's a pretty easy rotate for Psycho. It's just all in the mind games now. Has he stuck it? Has he not? No, it's the drop shot from losone to try and clutch it out, but instead, it'll be under the control of NIP when the gunfire fades.
losone almost had it in the clutch, but slipping through the fingers of los+one. Malpractice when it comes to their clear, John. They had so much time to try and work for the site, try and work out where these players from Ninjas and Pyjamas were before they try and actually address the area. But they don't do that. They clear things out with the IQ when they start to work their way in to adopt these angles. But Ninjas and Pyjamas aren't just going to rest inside of sight. They get a big pick, make it really difficult for los+one to try and battle out inside of the 2 versus 2, and then translate that down to the 1 versus 1. So extremely well done from Ninjas and Pyjamas to keep the play active and make sure that they stay in the face of los+one.
los+one going to be kicking themselves a little bit for not being able to control that situation into a pretty advantageous player count, but just not enough aggression to force their way into the site, allowed for those 2 remaining players on NIP to have their way with the aggression from los+one and shut down the play to give it to them instead. So that'll lock away AVG, of course, and we'll see them move swiftly along to the expected second site. No surprises there in terms of the selection. And you can very much say the same thing about the operator choices here. Still heavy focus on the mitigation, with 2 out of 5 of their lineup being committed to that role, and a pretty heavy spread as well of info denial when you consider they brought the Mute Mozzie combo, and then just the usual Cade pick here to counter out the wall openings that they'll almost certainly be going for in areas like that Master Triple.
We'll also be looking to try and fix things up now after that previous round where opportunity simply passed them by. Ninjas and Pyjamas with the lead, but we've seen both of these teams not really able to stay too far away from each other. Quite streaky when it comes down to it. Either that or we're on the teeter-totter. No one really dominating when it comes to any of these maps. So expect Los to swing back into this. Expect a swing from Muzi here with the M590. This is a gun that you got to be confident with, and he surely is. A little damage to Moose, a lot of damage to losone.
Unfortunately, just a little bit too far to get the outright down onto losone, so no killing to him just yet. Stays alive, and so does this extension.
Oh my goodness.
How did that happen? Let's go of the nade, I assume, just a moment too late, and the splash damage hits him right in the face on the way back there. Very unfortunate for losone, as it'll cost him his life. You'll remember, of course, he was already down to about 10 HP from the fight he just took, so did not have a lot in excess. Loses himself because of that one. And NIP will just take that. Be like, okay, we'll take the first kill. Dash, though, is going to try to take the trade for it. He's got the down. He's not going to know it, but there we go. Has drone confirmation, so fires in one more time to make sure that goes true. Pino, in the meanwhile, though, is going to be able to convert that back onto Dot. Still keeping things in the favor of our defenders, but just barely. Gets a little bit more definitive now with Wizards pickup. Cameraman with a good possibility to maybe turn things back around, but no, they miss a Wizard. Still on the staircase. Thought he had evacuated entirely, maybe. And Muzi, as such, is able to claim the final kill with ease now, as it's just a 1v4 to shut down at that point. A 2-0 lead to our defenders as they get off to a hot start here.
A hot start, hot to trot for Ninjas and Pyjamas. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but los+one's starting to putter out just a tad bit. I did mention that these have been very streaky back and forths in between these two teams, and we have seen some 3-round advantages at some points throughout this series. So let's just see what los+one have in store for us. A round in the chamber for Ninjas and Pyjamas, and a round that will still be hard fought from los+one. It's a kitchen defense coming out from NIP. Not feeling the library defense just yet. A lot of teams starting to work that into their rotations just to be able to have that spice of life every once in a while, but Ninjas and Pyjamas going for the tried and true instead.
With Kitchen being the site to play in, that will adjust quite a few operators on the attacking side as well. Not anything earth-shattering once again, just some stylistic changes. No Nook to creep things in, for instance, on Dash. They need the direct insertion capabilities of the Ashe. Potential insurance policy on their top-down openings as well, because they are not going to bring a sledge. They do have the Buck, of course, which can do that job just as well, but no nades behind that Buck. And that'll be the story for the entirety of this attacking lineup. No frag grenades to try and bully out any of like the kitchen players once they open up top-down angles. So that may be something that they come to miss if they find themselves struggling for an opening entry. But we can talk more about that when we get to a later point in the round, as there's a lot more clearance that needs to be done before they can even think about getting themselves into the site.
Well, a few layers of this onion peeled back. There's just Pyjamas. Do have still a lot of time to burn up. los+one to assert themselves across the building. Some angles adopted towards the site, especially for losone, as he'll be playing the rappel here for the actual pantry. Selma's out, but a mute jammer out as well. And I think they'll finally be able to get that to go off. Yes, indeed. And at least be able to break up one portion of that before it gets destroyed by the Electro Claw that was handled earlier. So they will at least have some vision in that space. They have the cardiac sensor here, though, and this is going to allow them to know when they can and can't be inside of pantry. Looks like a push coming in from losone, but is he aware that Wizard is in the area? Potentially has a big frag in the wings, but it's going to be Dots that actually lands first.
Psycho first to fall for NIP. More intel given over to the los+one roster, but can't immediately capitalize on it. Wizard pushed into a tough corner to play from now due to the fact that he's lost that breach. Can thankfully back away, as you see here, by rotating on the back end of the fireplace itself and get himself behind a relatively safe position near the bomb chassis. Fight still going on upstairs in the meanwhile. Not even just upstairs, but upstairs like horizontally as well. All the way on the other side of the map, basically. Another kill is going to be found for NIP. Once again, giving them the player advantage as we enter the final minute of time for los+one to make their own execute work. And los+one still kind of grasping at straws in terms of where they're going to find the best potential position to start things out from, as they still have, of course, Pino to deal with lurking around now the piano area of the first floor, trying to delay out any potential clear. And more importantly, he personally is delaying out any red hall control that los+one would try to grapple here to get themselves into the site.
And this has been so damning so far for Los. A real opportunity here for them to clear things out the way that they want to. Pino. Oh, did losone not have the timing? He didn't see him, John. He didn't have the timing. Oh my goodness. They're existing in the same damn zip code. They don't even know it. Cameraman now stuck inside of this round as there's only 15 seconds that remain. And I mean, practically hell on earth for him. The 1 versus 4, no real opportunity here for him to get out of this. Pino more than likely with the repeat, and wow, what a shot from him with the drop shot and the pistol. Ninjas and Pyjamas up 3-0.
Looked a bit like some of the nip takes we've been seeing so far over the course of the series, where it's just far too slow, and they have, it's seemingly, at least initially, a good amount of intel to make and execute work, but they just don't have the confidence to play it forward, risk a life or two, and potentially trying to take some map control for themselves. And they're right to worry in that situation. They were already a player down. The problem is they wait so long that losone is allowed to, or rather, the player from NIP is allowed to make the play. They did, it was Pino, excuse me, that jumped out into the hallway there and kind of changed up his angle a little bit. Even had time to like check behind him, reconfirm there wasn't a pre-placed drone watching for him. So he knew he had that fight against what I believe was losone on the other side of it, on the outside of the window there. That's a great example of los+one just taking a little bit too much time to figure out the situation, and hopefully that's part of the discussion going on now in the TAC timeout.
Yeah, the strategy from NIP has been working time and time again, and it's that early delay that leads into not necessarily great execute out of los+one, just missing a few key cogs, like some big entry kills and just some of the ability to try and trade out some of these frags. It's not really hitting its mark at the current moment, so we'll hope for the adjustment here after the TAC timeout. It's our only one for this remaining game. As we'll get back into things. Round 4 on the docket now for Ninjas and Pyjamas, as they have looked so very strong so far throughout their first full defensive rotation.
Time to see if they can do it twice now, as they look to lock in a potential perfect 6-0 half. Would certainly be a change of pace for what's been a relatively close series so far, even inside of just the initial 6 rounds we've had play out for the first half. But NIP going to try and break that wall. I think the best score that we've had is a 4-2 so far. It's time to see if NIP can really push the envelope on that a little bit more. los+one doing the dirty in the meanwhile here. Dash at least was thinking about it for a second. Had the Blackbeard soft locked, but ends up switching that up and goes for the Nook. So still going to have that sneaky insertion, just will be done in a bit less of an obvious way here for Dash. As I'll go to the tried and true instead of just the repelling menace in the form of the Blackbeard.
When are we nerfing Blackbeard again? That's a real question. Get the guy out of here.
I think it's going to be a buff, in all honesty.
No, I'll get rid of him.
What'll probably happen.
Just take the shield away, make the top hat skin permanent. That's what you need to do. That's the real buff right there. And, well, doesn't look like the rough waters are exactly clearing up for los+one. In fact, I think a storm front's moving in here, Blue. .0 is going to get taken down. And, well, what's the issue with that besides Dots just being dead and being down a man? Well, he happens to be Ying, which is probably the most important utility when it comes to actually executing onto the site. Loban trying to find something, but it's going to be Maya first. They know somebody is inside of Astro. A crossfire being held from the window, but nobody able to find Pino before he slinks off.
See if Wizard can negotiate a few more magic tricks. Has obviously got that very nice kill to start the game off, but they've since lost the edge, bringing it down to a 4 versus 4 now as Maya. Even right now, keeping his wits about him, even though he's got full clearance, as far as I'm aware, to this side of the map, just making extra sure that no one else from NIP had been tucked into a corner or something and had gone unnoticed. That's been a bit of a problem. It's happened at least 1 or 2 times, but it seems like LOS have that great control over the situation at the moment here. Another kill going to be struck. Now that gives them an actual player advantage to build off. But NIP, at least on this defensive half, have not been one to give up the ghost so easily on their aggression. You can see Psycho, and by extension, Khan's playing directly next to him, looking for an opportunity to potentially swing out by Death's door. I'm not sure if they have a small breach inside of the gun vault. Well, they will in a second. Try and play out and do as much damage as possible to this attack from los+one. They're going to find that opportunity. Khans, the patience plays off from him, swings in one final time to the breach in gun vault, picks up a kill. Problem is Psycho and now Khans have been isolated out for response kills. Dash as well shuts down one more. So finally, after the timeout, los+one are able to immediately convert results and get themselves on the board at a 1-3 scoreline.
A strong round yet again from Nip, but los+one finally able to get something going themselves. Some huge frags there to finally get a round under their belt. I mean, look at this. Ninjas in Pyjamas able to at least get some of the crossfires working their way, but finally los+one putting the shoe on the other foot. Able to get the big kills here, and it's not really tradable for Ninjas in Pyjamas given the circumstances of their man count. So very well done from los+one, especially to recoup after the earlier kill of .0.
With NIP still being in that prime position, we'll see if they're going to be prepared for a quick rebound on a different site. Won't be trifling around with trying to go for the immediate replay on AVG. Instead, they just move right along onto their next site and play it into that one instead. For NIP, though, it's going to require still a bit more of an aggressive stance as we're seeing them commit to yet again, even leaving one of the walls open for rotation here. I believe it will stay that way as they'll play the 2-1 split on this wall. And indeed, nope, there we go. They'll patch it up as the prep phase does conclude. But that is something we see occasionally, although not to that extent is the wall usually left open to that degree. You usually want to block the rotate outright at least and just use it as a sight line into the next room.
Los, a little more active with their lineup here instead of round 5. The Twitch coming in, Fink as well, and Lion with the 417 of what I'm seeing. Double 417 combo in between Dots as well as Dash. The lethal one at that as well. We'll at least get rid of the drone that was coming in via the study balcony. Dot's going to readjust as Muzi will be the one holding on to this. Does have a few teammates in tow to be able to assist. Jammer here too. No real teeth to this just yet for Los, as try to keep this one close to the chest. They do not want to over-aggress as Ninjas in Pyjamas would all then be guaranteed an advantage going into the half.
Electric Claw actually should be denying this entry attempt that's being made onto the wall here. So Nessie knows that should have burned out all the X-Kairos on top of it. Dash, no more charges left, so just has to sit here and kind of cry as he watches this Electric Claw negate out most of the advances from his team. Should have potentially been a second Twitch drone, but maybe not so much the case, as like we said before, Dash is not on that one. There we go, now Dash picks it up here. So it turns out he does have another charge left in that one. It will get countered out after the fact, but of course the X-Kairos should now be able to go off without too much of a delay. Cons, I don't think, had another claw sitting in his pocket, so that'll be the pathway open forward here for los+one. Took quite a bit to get to this point, but the good news is NIP aren't trying to, oh, this is a little awkward. losone as well as Psycho get a clean view of each other for quite a few seconds before either one strikes. Meanwhile, Cons does pick up the fight against Maya and takes out the player that had spent so much time trying to open that wall. No more shall be the case as Maya sits dead on the ground from that perspective. Pino with an opportunity to maybe catch this player. It's, oh, such a tight angle. But Dots is not going to give enough of it away so that Pino can strike. Still good, though, to take out about half the HP from that player. And losone has just suffered a similar fate. Los really struggling to try and find a clean path forward into the site. Dash sees blood in the water as he connects 1 or 2 shots against Wizard and will strike true upon that to take him down. losone as well tries to force the prod, but this is the issue with all that damage having been done before. It only takes 1 or 2 more bullets from the NIP players to knock them down entirely. Cameraman sits alone in the 1v4 here, not even in the site either, so not really playing from a clutchable position. He'll try to force it, but Psycho puts him right back down to the ground, and NIP immediately retake their control, guaranteeing a 4-2 half of the minimum. I'm going to try and make it 5-1 heading into round 6 here in a second.
And Nip are on top of it off the bounce, man. los+one, they get set up for their execute, but it really isn't all that great positioning-wise. They're really stuck to the stairwells and stuck inside of Astro. Past that, every single access point, like triple wall, as well as, you know, the master door and the other things we saw them try and exploit, completely slammed shut as Ninjas in Pyjamas members were on every single receiving end of all of those areas. So, well done to them. Ninjas in Pyjamas up 4-1 because of it. Round 6 right around the corner here as Ninjas in Pyjamas will be setting things up inside of AVG. The usual suspects across the board when it comes to their operator lineup too. They got Jaeger in as well as Wamai for some of the throwables. Mute Jammers to hold down the walls. Smoke for that little tail end of the round. Then finally Psycho, well, because Psycho just likes to have fun, really. You know, Warden's more for the hi, how you doing kind of a situation. Play right through those smokes, get those big frags. Into round 6 we go now after los+one have confirmed their lineup.
We'll see if NIP can complete the set here with the only kind of return to a previously lost site that they'll make, is obviously they've won every other site. los+one will have their opportunity for revenge on the AVG site. And we'll have to wait and see if it'll all come to fruition. NIP, in the meanwhile, will be directly challenging even the initial clear as you might expect on a site hold like this on the inside of that Astro area. Oh, the timing for this could pan out and nearly does. Pino immediately turns tail and runs away there as he'll lose about half of his HP. Could have been worse, to be fair, but yeah, we'll at least be able to make it out with his life from that specific situation as he backs away further into Astro.
Claymore down here for Dash, supporting himself and making sure that nobody can hop out the lower bathroom. Cons knows he's right around the corner. That was actually the opportunity. I don't think that Cons thought that Dash would even be visible. Obviously not the case. They kind of just stared at each other in passing. Cons is just going to work his way back into sight. Doesn't want to try and flirt with death too much here. Wizards going to continue to hold on to top main as well. As of right now, for Ninjas in Pyjamas, not too much going on, minus this push in from losone. Just looking for the kill on to Muzi, but he'll be felled instead as Muzi will continue to hold on to red.
Cameraman and the rest of Los simply waiting for an opportunity to bite at NIP and get revenge for that earlier loss, but have not been able to localize exactly where the best chance to find that opportunity is going to be. Uzi strikes yet again because of that one. Knocks out Maya. Has a very realistic chance to get the third kill here too. Cameraman quickly regrets that position. Opens up a new pathway for himself. Dots picks up the first kill against NIP, and Cameraman, with that new opening, finds the second. Unfortunately, Cons as well as Wizard able to play it forward now, and Cons with a quick 180 shuts down the last glimmer of hope there for the los+one roster. What I believe was Cameraman getting taken out, and indeed the 5-1 half being locked in for NIP. Just 2 more rounds to go now. This series is theirs, along with a date against the players from Liquid in a best of 5 tomorrow.
Ninjas in Pyjamas throttling los+one on Villa at the moment, and looking quite feisty doing it. Time and time again, these gunfights going their way. Just one error so far throughout the entirety of this map, and practically a perfect defensive side from them. But now, switching things over to the offensive end. See what they can potentially get done. los+one will be starting things off inside of AVG. They'll extend things over towards the master side. A few panels going up here, as well as some extended utility even past that. Little Banshee play coming out from Loben, and honestly, not a lot of Banshees being applied throughout this series here today. So Malusi, a welcomed adjustment to los+one strategy.
We've seen it brought in like once or twice in the past, but it's been pretty directly countered by the Brava drones now, so I think that's why some teams are kind of opting away from it, just because it's a very easy path to work your way past it. Even away from that, you have other options too to deal with it, which usually aren't too much of a pain, as that can be utility that is very much expected to be handled by the attackers. Either way, though, NIP on the board for their first attacking round. Not going to see anything too crazy for them, especially looking at the lineup. This is one that builds itself up over time, so expect that default level of clear where they are going to give respect over to any los+one setup that we do have over on the trophy side of the map, although I don't believe we've got too heavy of a setup for them in that neighborhood at the moment. They're keeping it pretty close to the chest here so as not to risk any early round loss due to just an overwhelming amount of players going down. Now, there is still presence, don't get me wrong. We still have Loben working himself around here, and there is a possibility to get a rotate from the Goyo downstairs. Loben sees the cross, I believe, going to be the Gemini here, so doesn't immediately fire on it, and he's smart to do so. The Gemini ultimately will round itself back and spot him, though, so his position has now been revealed, and he gives respect to that, backs himself up into the statuary connector.
Nice push through here from the Gemini clone of Psycho. Other things that, at least for the stairwell, might be able to clear things down towards China. Right around the area where Dash is, too. Rotate through Tarp. That's one that could be holding the cross downwind. That was a perfect position from Pino here. Dash is going to second guess it, though. This is working well for los+one. Delay in time. No real aggression from Nip towards this position either. But remember, the active site is all the way in Narnia, practically, from where Nip is right now. Cons, you got to go for the full drone here. Is he there? He has to check it. Thinks he knows that he's cornered him, and he has. Pino's on top of it. Doesn't have the scanner here. Want to be able to at least drone him out. Now it's up to Pino. Goes for the swing, but it's actually Wizard. Wizard gets him from upstairs. The hatch blows, and he immediately eviscerates Dash. So well done from Ninjas in Pyjamas as they lock him down inside of Laundry.
Great way to target down that player. But now the problem is, again, time for NIP here, as has often been the case throughout the course of this series here. Do they have enough to still work themselves onto the site? Well, yeah, with that down, it's certainly looking like it. As a combination, I think that nade also managed to get the Goyo canister sitting pretty close to Maya, so that's another bonus right here. Psycho gonna go for the quick finisher, and indeed he will. It's a good thing he does it early for Los's sake as well, as we nearly had Dot trying to rotate over and res him. That could have been a double kill right there off the second nade. Thankfully, disaster is avoided for los+one, but maybe only delayed here. Pino now he starts to use his nade arsenal. Strikes true with another pickup against Cameraman. We're going to see Dot just play directly up against the wall, and he misses the first shot, misses a knife follow-up as well. Everything just goes against the way of LOS here, as they cannot make their hold work. NIP immediately pushes map point at the beginning of the second half.
Ninjas in Pyjamas. all over it when it comes to Villa and all over los+one when it comes to their defensive end. Not able to hold a candle to the flame of Ninjas in Pyjamas when it comes to this map. Time and time again, able to dominate los+one. Gunfight or strategy-wise, it doesn't matter. What does is this huge scoreline that they've built up here in this game, practically unlosable now for Ninjas in Pyjamas. And you know, I guess it's just a curse day here for Demo. You know, just anything that comes out, man. If he tries to benefit one team, it's just going the other way. He was like, los+one are taking this. Ninjas in Pyjamas, a dominant Villa thus far. We'll see if I can reverse cast or curse this. If not, you can blame Demo. It's all his fault.
So it's going to be 5 attempts that NIP have to close this down. And that's just inside of regulation. They still obviously have the 3 additional rounds in OT if they need it as well. Or obviously the play contentions would be reset a little bit there, but still. NIP living life on relatively easy street right now as they try to close down this series at some point in the next few rounds over the course of this half as it continues to play out, only needing to show their very first round to get to that point as well. So things are certainly looking good in the NIP camp. But I think that goes back to once more just the fact the team has been alive a bit longer, the experience different, the bag just goes a little bit deeper for NIP that they can dig into and bring things out of in order to adjust and win out these rounds. los+one have been playing a very similar game all throughout this series. While we've seen some appropriate adjustments from them, it hasn't been anywhere near what we've seen out of NIP, and that's made up a big difference for them and allowed them to potentially come out on top of this one, obviously with that 1 round still pending.
Well, quiet across the map. Just the drones that are currently making noise as I'm looking to see where los+one are lying. Some nice rotation still out. los+one not scared of a duel, not scared of a fight. But it's a result that they more than likely fear. Ninjas in Pyjamas, they've dedicated every drone in their arsenal to this clear. Only 2 remain, 1 active, 1 in the pocket. Dash with a big kill here, but he can get it! Oh no! Pano puts him in the mixer! Not a single point of damage! los+one, not like this! The frag grenade out from Muzi. Do they know where Maya is? It won't hit its mark. He sees the barrel. He's got to go for the swing, John. He's got to get the kill. Psycho instead. Ninjas in Pyjamas. They're hurtling towards the grand final here at Gamers Without Borders. Lobin goes down. Cameraman, the lone soul. But it's going to be a camera-esque finish for Ninjas in Pyjamas. They put los+one in the grave as they head towards the grand finals.
Pinos puts him in the spin cycle in the meanwhile with that move right there, just able to completely outmaneuver his opponent, prevent a single point of damage from going on until later in the round, of course. But either way, a successful story from NIP as they take the qualifying best-of-3 matchup against los+one for a second time. They were able to deny los+one a berth at the Copenhagen Major just a few months prior. Now they're going to be able to do the same exact thing here for the Gamers 8 qualification at the Gamers Without Borders event. Keep in mind, of course, the job is not done yet when it comes to NIP. They still have that best-of-5 against Team Liquid tomorrow, which should go just as far, if not farther, than this matchup went. Obviously, only 3 maps. We can only give you that much, but that is going to do it for myself and Stokes for right now. We're going to be back in just a little bit for the North American matchup, but for now, let's throw it to a break and send you back to the analysts who are going to be breaking this match down.